place today.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Need to adjust my mic just a little bit, I think. Just a little. Can There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Tom Dabertin. It's the morning call special edition, Friday edition, on November 7th, 2025. Good morning, everyone. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And we've got lots to talk about. We're going to take your calls and looking forward to a great show this morning. It's not Wednesday, it's Friday, folks, in case you're waking up and saying, wait a minute, what's Dabertin's voice doing there? But I'll be here until 9 o'clock along with Joe Cimino. We've got Veterans Views this morning. I want to talk a little bit about Veterans Day coming up next Tuesday, so we'll cover that. But before we do anything else, let's get to traffic and weather. And I think we have a special theme song this morning due to MX and his latest post. Let's see if it goes.
We got a little ad going first. Hold on.
We got a little ad going. All right. We may have to. There we go.
The poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubble.
There we go. All right. We're using that as our theme for traffic and weather today because MX, a regular listener, great guy, did a post the other day. Jed announced that we're going to be moving the studio back to the transmitter down the street, and he put up a post and he put the Beverly Hillbillies up there and then put a little sign pointing to me, pointing at Jethro, and saying that was me. So there you go. Good morning, MX. Let's do traffic at this point. Traffic looks pretty good around the region and actually Chicago, Northwest Indiana, I-65, 8094, the toll road, Klein Avenue are all in great shape right now. Going across the line into Illinois, 294 looks really good, amazingly good actually for this time of the morning. So do all of the expressways, with the exception of a little bit of a backup up on the Kennedy near the Edens, and the Dan Ryan, which has been a problem all week, was certainly a big problem on Wednesday. The Dan Ryan is showing some traffic already, which is a little bit early for it to hit, and I know that route very well. With that, let's go to weather with Joe.
Good morning, everybody. Today is the 7th of November, and it is going to be probably the hottest it'll be the rest of the year. It'll be a high of 63. You'll have some clouds, but it'll be a majority sun. So go and enjoy your Friday. Maybe go out and watch the sectional championship games, but enjoy yourself. It's going to be a nice day. Tomorrow, to start off the weekend on Saturday, we're going to have some rain throughout the day, some in the morning, some spots in the morning, followed by more rain later in the afternoon with a high of 51. And then Sunday, you're going to start getting your snow. It's going to go from 60 to 39 and snowing in 2 days. So that will be fun. So look out for that on Sunday. And yeah, that's the weather for the rest of your week. So enjoy it. It's a wild one for sure.
It is a wild one, and of course, you said to me this morning when we walked in the building, you're like, "Why did you come back from Florida?" I mean, this time of the year, it's been, it was great down there the last month. It was in the 80s every day, actually in the 90s. Really warm overnight in the 70s, but it's good to be back here, back in the region, and I don't know if you saw a post by Paul Goddard. Of course, Paul Goddard, Region News Source. Paul had a personal post last night, and he said, "What do you like best about the region?" And I thought that was a really cool idea. So I'm gonna borrow that from Paul Goddard this morning and just ask callers when you call in, what do you like most about the region? I mean, we talk about all the bad things in the region. We talk about the politics. We talk about, you name it. There's lots to complain about with the region, but maybe it's time to talk about what we like about the region. So I'm going to start off and just say that what I like most about the region are the people. I like the people. There's a feeling of home. You know, I was gone for a month. I came back, and while I was gone, for example, Joe, get a load of this one. A friend of mine, Steve Zaveski, who lives in Whiting, drives past my house, and he notices that the storms that you had a couple of weeks ago, some high winds, had torn my flag apart. So he goes by and says, you know, hey, I know Tom, he likes to have a flag that's not torn up, wouldn't want to display a torn flag, and I wouldn't. So he goes and he walks in my yard and takes down my flag. And then he texts me and says, hey, just so you know, your flag was torn up, so I took your flag down because I know, you know, you're proud to be an American. You don't want to have a torn up flag. And I said, wow, that's really great. Thank you so much. And I posted it on Facebook, and a number of people, you know, agreed with me. That was really nice of Steve to do that. A week later, he is at the Whiting American Legion Post 80, and he's sitting there, and somebody says to him, hey, I read on Facebook how you took down Dabertin's flag, and that was really nice of you. And he said, yeah, you know, Tom's a friend and a longtime friend, and I'd like to, you know, wanted to help him out. And he said, well, we've got something for you. And Steve says, what? And he goes, we've got a replacement flag. If you don't mind, would you go put up the new flag? So Steve goes, leaves the Legion, goes back to my house, and puts up a new flag. So I come home last Sunday, and there's a brand new flag flying in my yard, courtesy of the American Legion Post 80. And to me, that's an example of what's good about the region. You have people who are willing to do things. I mean, Steve didn't he didn't text me and say, your flag's torn up, you need to get it down. He knew where I was and said, you know what, I'm not going to bother him. And when I talked to him later, he's like, look, I took care of it. And that's one of the great things about the region. Years ago, Jed's daughter actually had car trouble, and he was on the air, and he didn't know what to do, so he just put out, hey, ladies, guys, my daughter is stuck at this location, and a couple of people showed up to help her, one of which is my best friend, Rick Mossels, who actually drove out of his way to go and help her because he said, well, I listen to the radio every morning, and I know Jed, and, you know, his daughter, he couldn't go take care of his daughter, so those people responded. I think it's the people in the region that really strikes me as one of the great aspects. So what about you, Joe? I mean, you've been living here for a while. What do you think?
What do I think of the people?
No, what do you think is one of the best things about the region? It doesn't have to be the people. It could be Lake Michigan. It could be whatever you want it to be. What would you say is one of the best things about living here?
The best thing about living here is Jed TV Sports Network.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Grease the hand that pays you. There you go. You know what? Jed TV Sports Network is great. And we're going to talk probably in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll talk about some of the sectional games coming up, which, of course, you know the pressures and the feelings of the players that are getting ready for tonight.
I actually just got a 5 year ago. I don't know how many people listening have Snapchat, but you get like memories. So every time that you save something to your memories in Snapchat, you get it in a compilation with every picture that you posted on that day of the year. So like yesterday was the 5th or the 6th. So every post or everything that I've ever saved on Snapchat from November 6th, from the moment that I've downloaded it to the moment that I have it now, it all shows up in like a compilation. And yesterday, obviously because of the time of year, I got like all of my sectional championship pictures popping up in my memories, and that was very nostalgic.
You know, I like, by the way, I like when you get those posts sometimes, but other times I don't. For example, I think Facebook does that, and so does so does my computer, and it'll pop up photos from this date, and the only bad thing is that as you get older, sometimes it pops up things of memories of people that are no longer with us, and it's kind of hard sometimes too to look. My daughter is getting married the end of December, and so it'll pop up, pictures of me and my daughter, and she's like 7 years old, and it's wonderful to be reminded of that, and then it's a little bittersweet to be reminded that she is now grown, she's going to be getting married, and, it also reminds me of how old I'm getting. So, and by the way, 845-1100, if you want to call in this morning and talk with Joe and I have a real fear. I have a real fear coming up. So, my daughter is getting married on New Year's Eve, and she's having a large wedding, and she deserves it, and she's, I'm very, very proud of her, very happy for her and for her fiance, but I have a huge fear, and I hope listeners can help me out on this. Two things: I've got to give the speech, and yes, I can talk to a wall. I talk all the time. I talk on the radio, but I have to give that speech, and that speech is not easy. And I've started to work on it, and it just isn't easy to find the correct words to describe how you feel when your daughter gets married. And you don't want it to be too long, and you don't want it to be too emotional, and you also don't want it to be too humorous, and so you just have to find that right spot, and it's really difficult. And the other thing, my big fear, I have to do that dance with my daughter. I don't dance.
Come on, Tom. That cannot actually be the
I
biggest
don't
fear.
dance. No, I don't.
Okay, first off, I'm pretty sure you take classes for it, and anybody can learn how to dance. Have you seen Andy Richter on Dancing with the Stars? He's almost in the finale, and I guarantee you have more flow than that man.
Well, my daughter can dance, and I can't. And here's the problem. Okay, the problem I have is that I'm head and shoulders above everybody else, right? So I get this like bird's eye view, or, I feel like an air traffic controller, because when I'm on a dance floor, I don't see who I'm dancing with. I see everybody else. And if I see that they're looking toward me, it's like I suddenly become very self-conscious, and I don't want to dance.
Tom, something tells me that when you get into that moment, there is going to be absolutely nobody that you are looking at or even recognizing other than your daughter. So I don't think that you will be self-conscious or worried about any of those things, because there's going to be one thing on your mind, and it's going to be that dance with your daughter. And I think you're going to do great. I know you could take classes, follow her lead. Those dances aren't necessarily complicated.
You know what? I'm very self-conscious when it comes to that. I mean, the other day, Jed was here, and he's talking about swimming. And he's like, yeah, I go swim, with your brother David all the time. I swam in Lake Michigan. I see him at the Y. And he found out that I don't swim. I mean, I can swim, but not in deep water. And in fact, I told the story the other day that, my brothers have all tried to teach me how to swim. They're all good swimmers. David is a phenomenal swimmer. My brother Mark swims. My brother Peter swims. My brother Michael, when he was alive, swam. But I don't swim. I get nervous in deep water. I panic. And my brothers all point out that if you're going to swim with me or try to teach me to swim in deep water, just punch me in the face. Because that's their point is, I'm so big, I get that death grip on them when they're trying to teach me over the years, and so they've just punched me in the face. I've tried to take lessons. People don't know this. I actually tried to take lessons years ago at a place in Hammond, and again, the instructor was like, yep, you're going to kill somebody. Forget it. Don't just, and I have an in-ground pool, as everybody knows, and I can swim, and as long as I can touch that bottom, I'm fine. 7 feet or less, I can bob up and down, fine. I go into deep water, and I panic, and I just stand there, and it's like, so my brothers always point out, yeah, we'll rescue you, but first we're going to punch you in the face, and they pretty much have had to over the years, because otherwise I get this death grip on you, and so you can be the greatest swimmer on earth, but I'm going to pull you down.
So what happens when you want to go on the boat with your friends?
I go on the boat with my friends. I don't mind being.
Water, though?
No, I don't get in the water. I don't mind being in a boat. For example, my cousin Fred Stasny had a boat for many years, and I'd go out with him, and he'd go to the Chicago Air Show. Had a beautiful boat, great big huge boat at the Hammond Marina. We'd go, no problem. but I'm not getting in the water. I've gone on 7 or 8 cruises in my life. I love it. Although it wasn't, I did feel a little queasy when we were going over the Puerto Rican Trench, which is like 14,000 feet deep in a cruise, and I can remember my stomach kind of dropping on that one.
I don't do I don't do those like the Mariana Trench and stuff like that. Like there's something living down. The fact that we've only explored 10% of it scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're right. I mean, there are a lot of unknowns when it comes to the oceans. And when I'm down in Florida, I'm right on the Atlantic Ocean, and first of all, you look out at it, and people have asked me, what's the difference between looking out at the Atlantic Ocean versus, say, Lake Michigan? Okay, both are huge bodies of water. You get that feel when you look out, for example, along Lake Michigan. The difference is that the wave action. Lake Michigan actually at times has rougher waters than the Atlantic, they claim. And the reason why is because the waves are timed much closer together. So you have kind of a rougher series of waves and wave action on Lake Michigan than you do on the Atlantic. But it's beautiful. I look out and my wife Donna's like, okay, let's go swimming, and she goes snorkeling, she dives, she does all this stuff. I mean, she goes out with the tanks and the whole bit, and I'm like, yep, I'll be right here. I'll be right on the beach. 845-1100 is the number to call. We have a caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Tom.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, this is Rick.
Hey, Rick.
I just both my daughters are recently married, and my daughter Michelle, I'm a cripple. I'm in a like a walker. I can't stand very long,
Mm-hmm.
And I had to dance. I had to walk my daughters down the aisle. My last daughter that got married, she got married out in Demont, reception out in Demont at a golf course. It was a nice setting, and I was nervous when they played the song, and I can't remember. It was a country song she played, and it was about she's my daughter, and it was a real touching. It got me crying a little bit, I was going to ask you, how tall are your daughters? Your daughter?
So my daughter is about 5'7", 5'7" and a half, and I'm 6'9".
Okay, I'm 6'5", and my daughters are 5'11" and 5'10". So I didn't really have to bend down, but all I did was I focused on her because there was like 400 or 500 people there. I focused on her. I talked to her. Hey, you got a great man. I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm very proud of you, and you've never disappointed me. And then the song was over, and I hobbled back to my table.
Rick, you're giving me some inspiration, and I appreciate it. If you can do it, I can do it. But it's just one of those things, and you understand. You went through this now twice, right? You have 2 daughters that got married, and so
Right.
you know that intrepidation, that fear that you have, because you want everything to be perfect for your daughter's wedding, right? I mean, you want everything to be absolutely perfect, and I don't want to be the one, the one downfall, the one mistake, and I mean, it's just for me, it's kind of an uncomfortable thought that I have no problem. I mean, Rachel, I have no problem dancing with Rachel, but dancing with Rachel in front of 200 people is the fear, I guess. And it's crazy. And, the speech, on top of everything else, I've got my siblings, who will sit there. And of course, David and Mark are both attorneys. So they'll sit there and critique everything that I say. Not that it will stop my sister Rita or my brother Peter from critiquing as well. They'll all critique. And so, I mean, we're all very close with each other, but we're hard on each other. And I can just hear, well, you quoted that wrong. You made a mistake. You should have used this quote. You should have used that. I mean, it's my siblings, and that's how Thanksgiving is at my house. But I'm not so worried about that. It's just finding the right words. I mean, when you gave your speech, finding those right words is a lot more difficult than people think, isn't it?
It is, but if you speak from the heart, I mean, you know, man, you're going to get me crying here. The thing of it is, your kids, they grow up so fast.
They do.
And there was things that stood out, it was like one of the things that stood out with me, and I even said it in front of people, and then my daughter's just rolling her eyes, but it's something that I'll always remember. We used to have a bull mastiff. The dog was 150 pounds. My daughter was like 5, 6 years old. She's like, yeah, I want to walk the dog. I want to walk Dingus around the block. I'm like, I don't know, if you've never walked him. I said, now hold on to the leash. She gets 2 doors down, she lets go of the leash. Well, the dog was, keep looking up at her because, they're a good guard dog. And she walked all around the block, and I'm listening, to hear if there's other dogs barking. She come around, and when she made that turn, she's walking, and she's looking at me, she gave me such a smile, like, Dad, I did it. I walked Dingus, I'm like, yeah. That sticks out. I mean, it doesn't stick out. It's like the best thing she ever did, but it really touched me because she was like, see, I know I can do it. So I give her a build up, but just remember the good things that you raised your children, you raised them, put a roof over their head, and I'm sure they've never disappointed you. You're very, very proud of them, and I'm sure she's marrying a man that you really care about. And
he's great.
And what a way to start out the new year.
I will say this: you're putting me at ease, Rick. I may need you to call me on New Year's Eve to calm me down. But you're right. I think of all the great times and all the great memories of. Rachel and Tommy both when they were younger. And, of course, I've had Tom on the radio, and I'd love to get Rachel on there. Everybody would enjoy Rachel on the radio. Rachel can talk to anyone and everyone, and she's wonderful. She's absolutely just she's wonderful. She learned, I think, from me. She got from me her love of organizing things. She can organize anything. She can do a better job. We talk about, the festivals and events I've run over the years. My daughter can run circles around me. She's that good. And she texted me last night and said, we have to pick a song to dance to. And her comment, Rick, was, she said, it can be any one of those 1,000 songs that I used to listen to on Saturday mornings. And so the story there is that I put a sound system in my yard years ago. And I put a state-of-the-art sound system in my yard. We talk about my in-ground pool, but it's the sound system that's really amazing. I bought professional-grade speakers. There's a buried subwoofer that's buried like 4 feet down under the ground that Bernie Grisolia, the Hammond Fire Chief, will tell you that if it goes out, he's never digging that hole again because he helped me dig it. But, I mean, it's a really fancy system. On Saturday mornings, I will get up and go out and cut the grass and do yard work. I love my yard, and I've talked about, my garden. Well, my daughter's bedroom was the room that was closest to the yard where the sound system was. And so she said, I used to wake up at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday listening to you listen to all that 70s rock music, and she's right. I mean, that's what I'd be playing, and so she has a love of 70s rock music because of me. And there's just so many things. There's so many connections that I have with my daughter.
Yeah,
and
the thing of it is, you're her father. You never disappointed her. You took care of them. Your kids. Your son's a lawyer.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, man, I'm in awe with you about what you did. I mean, you ran Pierogi Fest. That was the best organized situation, with a festival, whatever you want to call it, in the whole region, and you did it for 30 years, man. I mean, they come out in groves over there, and you were in charge of that, man. I mean, you gotta. I'm proud of you, man.
Well, Rick, thank you.
Stepped up.
I'll tell you what. One more story about Rachel, and that is when she was in. I think she was a freshman in high school, and she and Tommy grew up with that festival, obviously, and they helped me. And Tommy used to go around, and he would go around and he would tell the vendors, you have to wrap your plugs in case it rains. And they, he'd be like in 7th grade, and they just look at him, and he'd be like, well, I'm not leaving until you wrap those connections. Okay, you're going to tape those connections, and then I'm going to leave. And he's maybe 12 years old and doing this. But Rachel was in high school. She was a freshman, so she's about 14 years old, and she decided that she was going to help make sure that our vendors met certain criteria about appearance. So they had to have appropriate attire as far as either uniforms or matching shirts. They had to make sure that their booth looked clean. And she went up to one booth and she said, you're not going to be able to open because, this is dirty and this doesn't look right. And she gives them a list. And the owner of the booth basically is like, get the hell away from here, and he basically drops an F-bomb and tells her, get out of here. I'm not listening to you. And she says, well, I'm in charge of, appearance. And he goes, I could care less. And one of the Whiting police officers is standing there and he goes, way to go, buddy. You just told off Tom Dabertin's daughter. Do you want me to get the tow truck now, or shall we have him call? And the guy comes running down the street. He finds me and he says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I mean, he had the cleanest booth and the nicest looking booth in the history of Pierogi Fest. He went out that night and bought like all new skirts and everything else. And every time my daughter walked by, she'd do the, where the two fingers where you point to your eyes and you point to that person, and she'd do that to him. And the guy was terrified. He was terrified of her. And I mean, this is this pretty young little blonde girl who had this guy terrified because the cops basically had a lot of fun, blowing smoke up the guy's back end, telling him, hey, you're in trouble now, boy. You dissed Tom's daughter, and it was so funny. But there's lots of great memories of Rachel, and lots of great memories to still have, and I really appreciate the call, Rick.
Wait till you start having grandkids.
I know, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Bye-bye.
Why don't we go to a quick break? You're listening to the Morning Call Friday edition on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back. It's Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. You can also listen to us on the TuneIn app, Jed TV, and YouTube Live. So lots of ways to listen to WJOB these days, and we appreciate you doing just that. And you can also, of course, view us live on YouTube Live or on Jed TV. So that requires me to make sure and get up early and shave and shower. Back in the day when Jed first bought the station, I can remember rolling in at 6 a.m. to the old location that we're going to be going back to, and it didn't matter how you looked. I mean, you could your hair could be standing up. You could basically show up in your pajamas. It didn't really matter. And all I can always remember is that no matter how I dressed, no matter how I looked, there was Preacher, okay? And Preacher definitely just rolled out of bed and went with it. But I'd see him, and I used to joke with Preacher all the time. Of course, he had lots of fun at my expense over the years, but it'll be kind of fun to go back there when you're in the old station and you take a break. You can walk out underneath the tower, and that's quite a sight to see, staring up in that tower. You just don't want to do it during a thunderstorm, that's for sure. 845-1100 is the number to call. Let's go back to traffic and weather, and just taking a quick look at the area expressways. Northwest Indiana, really pretty good shape. Not seeing any major issues on any of the expressways in Northwest Indiana. Go across the line into Illinois. The Dan Ryan, again, showing some pretty significant backup starting about 47th. Otherwise, pretty decent shape. 294 looks good. Actually, I'm kind of amazed, but the Kennedy Expressway looks pretty decent this morning, which is kind of remarkable because of all the construction and all the normal tie-ups. The Stevenson, the Eisenhower are pretty decent shape as well. So the only real tie-up is the Dan Ryan, and it's not like Wednesday when it was stay off the Dan Ryan, but it is backing up in its normal self. And with that, let's go to weather with Joe.
Yes, weather. So today, like I was saying earlier, it is going to be probably the nicest day for the rest of the year. It's going to be a high of 63 with just a few clouds and some sun. You know, Dabertin brought some of that Florida sun back with him. Gave us a little bit of last glimpse before.
Didn't last long.
Yeah, before we start heading into darkness. But Saturday, we'll have some more rain spots in the morning and followed by more in the afternoon with a high of 51. And then it'll drop all the way down to the high of 39, and you will start to get a little snow accumulation. You'll have some snow in the morning and then some later in the afternoon as well. So keep an eye out for the sporadic weekend of weather. I suggest you get out and enjoy your day-to-day.
And there you have it. Lots to talk about this morning, always is. We can talk about politics, local politics. As I said on Wednesday, I had a lot of callers about this. The race for Congress is really heating up. There are 2 declared candidates on the Republican side, and there's a lot of rumors about Randy Niemeyer becoming a third. Barb Regnitz, who is the Porter County Commissioner, and I guess very popular over in Porter County, has announced her intentions to run. Jennifer Ruth Green, who ran 4 years ago, gave Frank Mervan a real run and came within 5 percentage points of beating him. She has filed again. So there's a lot of there's a lot of speculation about what's going to happen as far as the first district. The first district, I don't think there's going to be much action on the Democratic side. Obviously, Mervan's an incumbent, but you never know what could happen in the general election. So we can talk about that. We've been talking about what's right in the region. Something that what do you like about living here? Because we always complain about everything else. And I was talking about the trials and tribulations of my concern of having to have the first dance with my daughter at her wedding coming up in December. 845-1100 is the number to call, and we've got a caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Great subject, Tom. I'm only teasing now, but not about this. Last week, again, I had breakfast with the mayor, okay?
Hey, you guys are getting together all the time, aren't you? I mean, you guys are buds.
Yeah, and a lot of people are mad at me, but the best thing I like about this place is the crime and the taxes, and maybe I'll move to New York. But that's not true. Okay,
that was
that's
pretty good.
True.
By the way, wait a minute. Did you hear the theme song that we're using today? Joe, can you cue it up again? Can you play a little bit?
And then one day he was shooting at some food.
That's because of you, my friend. It's because of you. And I love that. Jethro. I used to love that show. So, you know what? That's a compliment. That's a compliment. Having me as Jethro Bodine, that was great. Go ahead.
You can put it on the screen behind you if you wanted, but as I talk with the mayor, he's getting to know that I'm a woodsman. And there's a man, and you could Google him. His name is Dick Pronicki. And he was from California. I'm no Dick Pronicki by far. And he moved into Alaska, into the woods, and lived there for 30 years and made his own cabin. Okay?
Oh, I'm looking at him now. Okay.
And he lived off the land. So while me and the mayor were having breakfast together, I told him when I pass, and he said, MX, you'll live a while. I want to bring my cabin back, and I want to put it next to the little red schoolhouse. And
see, I thought you'd put it on the island in the alley.
that's a nice place too. But
that would be perfect, though.
I think it. I don't want to put it at Cabela's, but I think the mayor could have some control over this, and this could be for the children. They could learn that there's a guy from Hessville I'm bragging on myself, that raced motocross, and that I'm an actual woodsman for the time I'm up there. The one real estate guy says, you got the best lot in the area. I'm on the river. You see the bears and everything.
Yeah, you've seen.
And for some reason, well, I did win I'm going to brag on myself. I won the 500A Pro class in 1979 at Shady Hill. That's a big deal. I can't get a hold of Wes Lukosius. You know, I'm saying all my friends keep bugging me. But we could put this trophy inside that cabin next to the Little Red Schoolhouse. So me and the mayor are working on that. But as far as Kennedy Avenue, it's a hidden gem, and it's almost there. It's almost there. There's a guy, I don't know what it is, but you see them barrels in that? He's right across from Kennedy Theater, and he is cooking some good barbecue on Thursdays and Fridays, and he's trying to get into that hose building. You know what I'm talking? There's a where
Yes.
they sold the hoses.
By the way, I went down Kennedy Avenue this morning because there was a train at Indianapolis Boulevard, so I got diverted over to it. And I have to say, it looks really nice. There's one problem with the new landscape of Kennedy Avenue, and that is it looks like a couple of those ballards that sit right on the corners. There's two of them that evidently have been hit by trucks or cars or something that have to be righted because they're leaning a little bit. Otherwise, it looks really nice.
I made that cartoon a long time ago, but who hit that ballard? But we're right ready to break loose on this, and I know I'm not involved in that because I'm not allowed in Freddy's to have my parties.
Well,
By the
okay.
way-
Now wait a minute. I'm reading this about Dick Pronicki. Okay, and he lived alone for nearly 30 years in the mountains of Alaska in a log cabin. All right. Now, when you go up to God's country, you're not alone though.
Yes, I am alone.
I thought your girlfriend goes with. Doesn't she?
No,
go?
she will not go. It's too scary.
She seems very, very intelligent, so I can understand if she stays back.
I take her to all these state parks, but I'm on 47 acres, and that's real up there. That's not is where like Dick Pronicki was. I mean, they got grizzlies there. I only got black bears, and the black bear, he's pretty friendly. He invites himself to lunch and dinner, and that's getting a little scary. A lot of deer, wolves. You know, you've seen all the picture in the bobcat.
Well, I've seen
and
the
big
pictures
turtle.
of the bobcat. I've seen the pictures of the bear. And you know, it's funny because I mentioned my cousin Fred before, and my cousin Fred has a cabin out in Colorado, and just outside of Estes Park, and he of course has to deal with bears as well, and actually he lives in a kind of a secluded campground area, kind of like you. The cabin now has actually been converted for year-round use, but like he said, the problem is that when you take the road up to his cabin, you're going to be there from the end of November until April because they get about 110 inches of snow and it doesn't melt and it doesn't get cleared. But he told a funny story some years ago that they have a large dumpster, I guess, in the middle of the camp area, and the bears oftentimes will turn over the dumpster. So my cousin goes out there, and he's a big guy. He's 6'7". He was a standout college football player, and he goes out there and he starts moving the dumpster, and the other people at the campground thought it was the bear again, and they were chasing him out, and they found out it was my cousin Fred moving the dumpster. That was pretty funny.
But anyways, Kennedy Avenue, if you can't find somewhere to eat there, they got good breakfast places. They got Latino. They make their own tamales.
All right, what's the best restaurant for breakfast on Kennedy Avenue?
Well, I go to both of them.
Okay.
And then well, there's actually three of them. I go to all three. I try to patronize all of them. But I'm going to get off this subject, and I hope you like the idea of somebody from Hessville who actually said Gibson Woods back in the day and got more acres during the DLO administration. I hope you like the idea of them taking my cabin back and putting it at Hessville Park. Now, let's talk about I got an
I think
idea.
it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. The mayor can retire. He can be like the docent, for your cabin. He can sit there and, you know, but I think it needs to go on the island behind your house. I just do. I mean, and that way it becomes a park. Okay, you keep it park like. So why not turn that island in your alley into a park with your cabin right
Well,
there?
there would be too many people going in and out. It might, the neighbors might get mad. But you got Cabela's. I'm sure Cabela's would take it in a heartbeat that there was somebody from Hessville that. I actually started being a woodsman in '63, and that thing about a shower, my uncle put us in a tent with bears everywhere, and if you wanted a shower, you go in the lake. He was from World War II, and today it's D-Day. I made, Greatest Generation. Never forget the Greatest Generation.
Absolutely.
But what I want to say is I've got something new for the Christmas show.
Okay, and by the way, we need to mention we are doing the Christmas show. It's an annual Christmas show. You and I are doing it, so that's coming up in December. It'll be on Wednesday though. So okay, go ahead.
Okay, I got a lot of good things every year. Somebody gets the coal, a piece of coal. Now, I when I worked at Inland, you could leave Inland Steel, and coal would be everywhere. So I might just get a piece of tinfoil and paint it. But every year, somebody gets a piece of coal. And this year, I know who's going to get the coal.
Well,
we're going to have a great time at the Christmas show. I got the Christmas tree out, the old Redneck Riviera Christmas tree.
I saw that you sent me the photo the other day of the Christmas tree, and you're getting ready and getting in the holiday spirit. Although your holiday spirits are a little different than most. I think your holiday spirits are the for most people they'd be the result of drinking some spirits for the holidays. But.
All right, Tom, we'll let you go. Hope you like my idea about the cabin. Let you go, buddy.
Well, I just, what? Let me ask you one more thing. One thing I've never actually asked. How big is the cabin?
It's 10 by 20 with a cathedral ceiling.
10 by 20. I mean, I've seen photos, but I never knew, and so it's a 10 by 20 cabin, and it's up it's Wisconsin, correct?
Right, I'm on the Wisconsin River. I can, few feet, I'm in the Wisconsin River, and the river comes towards me, and it goes that way. And I got to bring up my sister-in-law. I always told my sister-in-law, in the end, I'm going to have a one-room cabin, and if you want to shower or anything, you know what I'm saying? You got to. It's just going to be a one-room cabin because I really don't want any guests. But the only person that's invited, if he wants, is Mayor Tom. I want to get him up there and check this out. When he's done with politics, because someday he's going to say, I'm done with politics. And I don't want any hard feelings about the cartoons because if it wasn't for these people like McDermott and some other people on WJOB that get the memes, well, I wouldn't have a site.
I don't want to know what you guys are burning in the fireplace, okay? And secondly, the best, I believe this is correct, the best bait that you've used is talking to me on the phone. Isn't that correct?
The best what?
The best bait that you've had for catching fish is when.
Oh yeah.
You said, you know what? Call me anytime because he said that you had like a record. You had a record catch that day because you were talking to me on the phone while you were fishing. Yes. It
was September and it was slow and then you called and you said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm fishing." He said, "I'll go." I said, "No." I said, since you called, they were just starting to bite. Almost jumping in the boat.
So that means
I can jumped in the boat.
That means I can scare fish right out of the water. There you go.
Right out of the water, jumping in MX's boat. I'll let you go.
All right, take care, MX. 845-1100 is the number to call. We got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you like about this area? The people, and then the people and. I always hear this on a commercial somewhere. Just wait 5 minutes. Anything can change in this area.
Especially the weather.
Yeah, but I always hear that thing. Just wait 5 minutes, and it can change.
You know what? I have to add to my list. I mean, the people, but and of course Lake Michigan. Okay, Lake Michigan is amazing, but the weather. The weather here is amazing. Now, look, the thunderstorms in Florida are actually more violent than they are here. There's more lightning strikes in the state of Florida than anywhere else in the United States. But the storms in northwest Indiana, when you get that sudden change in the weather and the storm comes through, it is remarkable. And my home has an enclosed front porch that I put skylights in years ago, and I will sit out there and watch storms come in because it faces the north. So I get to see the lightning, I get to see, the turbulence and the violence of the weather, which is pretty remarkable and pretty interesting. And then of course you have the snowstorms, you've got you've got weather here in northwest Indiana.
Yeah, it's just like in this area. It can change in a heartbeat, and it can be totally different because Lake Michigan is a big factor of our weather here because simple reason, one time we were supposed to go over east to somebody's house. We're running down 1220, and it was snowing like cats and dogs here in Hammond in northwest Indiana. And we decided, we don't want to come out that way because the roads, there's all snow-covered and everything. Well, there ain't nothing on the ground here, and I'm thinking, yeah, right. Well, we're running down 12 and 20. I'm taking my time. Get the county line in 20 over there by Gary Portage area. As soon as I hit County Line Road, the roads are bone dry. That's the thing about Lake Michigan. However that wind goes, you can have a ton of snow and whiting and all this area, and then you'll have nothing to the east. And then if that wind goes to the east, then you're going to have a blast. It's like, Lake Michigan is the most wonderful thing we got around here because, you can go fishing, swimming.
You're right about the weather. I mean, it is, you can have, for example, you can have snow in South Hammond, and you can have 8 to 10 inches. And in fact, if I remember correctly, a couple of years ago, you actually called me and said, well, what do you think of the snow? And I said, there's no snow by me, if you remember. You had snow, and I didn't. And you had like 8 inches of snow, and I had nothing. And so,
it's like, when I used to drive a truck, it was snowing like cats and dogs, and it was bad here. And I couldn't even get from my house to the yard, and I said, I can't go. Well, I'll try to get, because you get south of Route 30, it'd be dry. I says, they don't plow alleys. Well, I have to go into my driveway through the alley, and at the time I had a car, so I couldn't get out. Now I have a different situation, but it's like the weather and the people, like just yesterday, I brought a student back from testing yesterday, a lady, and she lives in Hessville. She's telling me stories about Hessville, and, she lives around here and everything. That's the thing I like it. Ever since I've been teaching, I meet so many different people that tell me stories of this area, that area, and everything. And most of the people that come from another area and come to this area, they tell me the stories of what because some of these people, I keep a thing on my laptop. I write stories when somebody tells me something that's very interesting about that person in this area. I write it down so I don't forget it. But that's the thing. I'm sitting in a truck. I got 38 minutes, and they're telling me stories about the city of, how they feel about this area. It's not just what I see about the area. I hear so much about. I can tell so many people that they just love the area because everybody in this area is 100% totally different than anybody. There's nobody. You and I ain't the same.
Yeah,
you're high and I'm low.
You're right. The variety, and the personalities. I mean, let's face it. Northwest Indiana has a lot of quirky people. It does. I mean, the fact that Jed, I don't know if you heard him, but the fact that Jed came on the other day, and he comes on to make an announcement about, that the station's going to move down the street and, all that stuff. And we're talking about different things. And in the middle of it, he says, yeah, by the way, I'm going to go swim with your brother. And he starts talking about how he knows it's my brother because he looks for the hairiest guy in the pool. And I mean, just Jed typifies the quirkiness, I guess, of people in the region. I mean, it's fun.
Now, I was wondering when the station makes the move to that station there, back to the one.
Yes.
Is that certain person going to come riding through that station in the motorcycle again?
What are you referring to?
I thought I heard somebody said somebody rode a motorcycle through the radio station.
I don't remember that. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of history about that station. And, in fact, I'm working on with Matt and with Adriana that I'm going to do a series of podcasts about the history of WJOB because I'm one of two people who I think really know it well, Jed being the other person. But Jed can't do those podcasts because he needs to be part of some of the history. I mean, let's face it. If it wasn't for him and his wife, this station probably wouldn't even be on the air. And people can criticize him and they can say all kinds of things and throw all kinds of stuff his way. And sometimes he deserves it. But he took this station really from the throes of death and brought it back. And
that's like a couple years ago. I don't know when it was. I've got the pictures and the video of it. But when I got my better drones and I was more experienced, I took my drone, went over by that tower, and I went completely above it. I went about maybe 20 feet higher than it because I knew what I was getting into. And I went and brought my camera and shot it straight down. And I got a picture of that tower and the building straight up from above.
We may want to use some of that footage. So I'm going to talk to you off the air about that because when we do the podcast,
and then what I did too is, the studio they're in now. I went to that studio, and I went up high enough to get a picture of the studio where they're at presently right now.
Well, we may want to
and
use
then got
some
a shot where you can see the tower. Yeah,
use some of that. Hey, I'm getting a signal though. We've got a break for station identification. So
yeah. So hey, just everybody, just enjoy your day and just wait 5 minutes and something can change.
That's right.
And
hey,
just have a safe and wonderful day today.
Right, and thanks so much for calling. Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right, let's take a commercial break. You're listening to the Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. And you are listening to WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And this is the Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin. I'm going to be here until 9 a.m. And, of course, I'm not here by myself. I'm here with Joe Cimino, the producer, and we're going to cover traffic and weather together, and then we'll get back to the show. So let's go over to traffic and having a little problem pulling it up. Here it is. Okay. Just like always, you can always – there we go. MX, I hope you're listening. There we go. That's right. WJOB is going to move its studios back to the original facility in the next few months. So that's why we're playing that, because MX thought it would be funny to put out one of his cartoons, and he's got the Beverly Hillbillies that were moving down the street, and Jethro is marked as Tom Dabertin. So we're playing the Ballad of Jed Clampett this morning when we do traffic and weather. Northwest Indiana looks really good right now. No problems anywhere. Just remember that there is construction on I-65 down to US 30, so just use some caution driving through there. Going across the line into Illinois, everything looks good except for the Dan Ryan. This is a little bit heavy for this point in the morning, 7 a.m. The backup is down to Garfield. That's a little heavier than normal. Otherwise, the inbound, Stevenson and Eisenhower are starting to build. The Kennedy looks remarkably good up to the Edens, and from the Edens to O'Hare, it's a parking lot. 294 looks good as well around the city. So you're in pretty good shape this morning. Not a bad day to drive. We got the rain out of the way this morning, came in overnight, and Joe's going to give more information about the weather. So, Joe, take it away.
All right. So today is going to be a beautiful day with a high of 63. Not many clouds and a lot of sun. Tomorrow it's going to drop down to 51, and you're going to have some rain in the morning, followed by more spots of showers in the afternoon. And then on Sunday, it's going to drop even farther, all the way down to a high of 39, and you're going to get some snow, possibly in the morning and later in the afternoon. And that's your sporadic weather for the week.
And 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got a couple of callers, so we're going to take that caller. And, Joe, you're going to take a quick run out, right? All right, so we'll take this caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yes, one of the weather items coming out of the Chicago station is not just snow, but that fearful term, lake effect snow in northwest Indiana on Sunday.
So guess what? Yesterday I came home and I ran outside and I ran my leaf vac, and we got all the leaves up in the yard. Of course, by this morning, you can't tell the difference. But I got that first round of leaves up because I heard about the snow and the rain, of course, that came overnight.
Yep. Is Friday going to be another a regular gig for you, or just sitting in for Kuziak?
I'm just sitting in. We're just sitting in today. That's all. We'll just leave it right there. Sitting in today. It's a lot of fun to be on the radio. And you of course, you and I know each other, and you know my love of WJOB and doing the radio. So I'm just enjoying being here this morning.
You're a semi-retired gentleman, right?
I'm semi-retired. I hope to be a full-time gentleman, but that's not always the case, but I try.
Okay. Well, a big change in Munster in terms of restaurants. The old Commander closed up.
Yes.
And it's at the corner of Ridge and Calumet Avenue, directly across from Joel Osco. And they've been taken over by a chain named Honey Jam Day Cafe.
Yeah, I heard about this or read about it. Of course, Joseph Pete in the Times always writes about what's in and what's out, and so
right.
he wrote about it. And Commander Restaurant around for 35, 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And ate there many times, and hate to see it close, but it's always nice when you have a restaurant that closes and somebody comes in and takes it, right over. And so that's kind of nice. You don't want to have a vacancy. And just by virtue of the name, I'm assuming it's going to be focused heavily on breakfast.
Yes. The hours have changed dramatically from the Commanders. Monday through Friday, 6:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. And Saturday and Sunday, 6 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So that's a big change from the old Commander Greek-owned
right.
place. I really miss those. Those places are going out slowly but surely. Their second and third generation family members don't want to take on that responsibility, and so it's going to other ownership.
And those Greek restaurants, there was one out in Valparaiso, the Broadway Cafe on US 30 that
right.
closed up some years ago, and you see a lot of those restaurants. Even Sunrise and Whiting doesn't stay open till 8 and 9 o'clock like it used to. It now closes at 4 o'clock. And
right.
Although we're getting Sophia's Pancake House in Whiting, that's coming up. So kind of excited about Sophia's coming to town, but they don't stay open all day either. They close at about 2:30, 3 in the afternoon. To me, it's an interesting concept, because I would think that to really make to make the bank that you need to make to stay in operation, you need to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But obviously I'm wrong, because the trend is to close in the afternoon and not be an all-day restaurant.
Well, another restaurant that Greek run round-the-clock kind of operation in downtown Valpo. It's now a multi-level parking lot.
That's right, round the clock, right? They tore it down. They built a new parking garage. Yes.
Yep.
Hey, I want to bring up
on.
something, because again, Walt, you've talked before about your experience and your service to this nation, and trust me, we appreciate it. It may not have been appreciated back when you served, but it is appreciated. I wanted to throw out a few things to you to make sure you're aware of this. So, for example, on Veterans Day, you are going to be able to get a 10% discount on your bill at Strachan Van Til's.
Terrific! I didn't know that.
There's another one opportunity. Cracker Barrel basically is serving breakfast all day and you're entitled to a free breakfast at Cracker Barrel.
Whoa, that's another good. That's good news too.
And then there is the initiative by Lamar Advertising, which I just think is phenomenal, that Lamar basically is willing to post a photo, the branch of service, and the year served on their electronic billboards for anyone that is served in the U.S. military. And I just think that is really such a neat opportunity. And I'm going to pull up the while we're talking, I'm going to pull up the site that you go to for more information and to actually upload the photo. So continue.
Any case, veterans generally appreciate being appreciated, but unfortunately for us Vietnam veterans, even though the average Vietnam veteran saw twice the actual combat as his Second World War counterpart, when we returned, there was not a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, we had to put up with a lot of crap, like you lost our first war. It was actually lost in Washington by a bunch of cowards, incompetent traitors, and we did our job at a tactical level. We won the war, but it was all thrown away by idiots in Washington. But
it was the first war that was fought largely by politics, and it was a disaster because of it.
Yep. I mean, it was just military insanity. I mean, it just mind-boggling when I think back, and it cost lives. I mean,
and by the way, that website for Lamar is LamarLovesVeterans.com. I just want to get that out there. Continue, please.
Let's move on to a little happier thing. White Castle was an important part of the history of Whiting. You had an old line White Castle was built in the 30s kind of thing. At the corner of
built in the 30s, right at the corner of 119th and Indianapolis Boulevard, was expanded in the 1960s. Went through a couple of renovations. Another one in the early 80s. They added the drive-through, but the building had basically fallen on better days. It just wasn't salvageable, and so they built a brand new White Castle just to the north on the other side of the parking lot now, and all is well with White Castle. And I will just say this: there are so many stories of famous people eating at White Castle or going to White Castle. Most of those stories are fictitious. They're not true. There's no proof of them. But there is one person that I absolutely know for a fact that he used to go to the White Castle, and that was Jesse Owens. Excuse me. Jesse Owens, I knew his daughter quite well, and his daughter actually showed me photos of her dad at the White Castle. He used to love White Castle. He lived on the south side of Chicago, and he would go to the White Castle. So
why don't you tell the audience, most of them never heard of Jesse Owens. Who was Jesse Owens?
Well, Jesse Owens, of course, the famous Olympian, a black athlete who basically Hitler said he wasn't going to honor or allow him to participate. They were able to participate in the Berlin Olympics in the 1930s, and Jesse Owens set some world records, in fact, at the Olympics, and he was an amazing athlete. And I will tell you, the Jesse Owens Foundation continues, and his daughter is the CEO of the foundation, and she's a great individual in her own right, and really, really good person.
Never any scandal associated with this guy. He was really a first-class guy.
Never. Very much a family man.
Moving back to White Castle, the White Castle operation is not over with the new look. Here's an item in the Chicago Sun-Times, Saturday, November 1st. White Castle craves a new look, and here's a picture of a new White Castle in the new concept in Columbus, Ohio, and the de-emphasis is on de-emphasizing the crenellations that were built, inspired by the water tower in Chicago. And It's bright. Has a very modernistic look. There is a place here for the crenellations, but it's much subdued compared to what it was in the old
I
White
think they're
Castle.
making a mistake. I think there's a certain amount of nostalgia that people love about White Castle, and I think if you make that change to a more modern look, they're going to ruin that again, that nostalgic draw that exists with White Castle. Hey, I want to ask you something. We talked about the military, and I want to throw this out. I brought it up the other day, and didn't get a chance to talk about it too much. But George Patton, great general, no doubt about it.
One of our greatest.
The fact that Patton actually had such a role in basically starting the move to desegregate the U.S. military is pretty remarkable, and he doesn't get any credit for it whatsoever, none. And I'm amazed by it. I saw how he basically there was a 761 combat brigade that was all black that helped basically turn the tides at the Battle of the Bulge. He awarded Silver Stars to some of the leaders of that group. It was all black. He was a proponent. He said, look, black soldiers are as talented as white soldiers. They bleed the same way. And if they want to serve, we should let them serve. And he gets no credit by historians for his move to desegregate. He really fought to desegregate the military. And Eisenhower was quite reluctant and basically used to kind of pull him in line and say, no, we have to continue the segregation. So just find that very interesting. But
I know that Patton wanted to use the all black units, and they tended to be used for rear echelon operations. For example, there was all black paratrooper group, and they weren't even deployed into the combat area. They were used out west as firefighters, as smoke jumpers. Right. And they pioneered a lot of the smoke jumping tactics developed by the U.S. Forest Service to jump people in on parachutes in isolated areas. And I suspect the reason that he doesn't get, in quotes, credit for this is he was a big anti-communist. He wanted to, when the war came to an end with the Germans,
he wanted to take on the Russians. You're right.
Oh, yes. Yes, he says the war is not over.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure he of course, a fact that is very often ignored by the historians to this day, and that is, how did the Second World War get started? It started with an alliance between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. So Joe Stalin really liked Hitler. He thought he was a wonderful guy, and he was very loyal to Hitler. And so the Second War started by invading Poland, and they divided up Poland. Germany got the western part of Poland. The Soviets got the eastern part of the Poland. And then the Soviets then went on to attack Finland, the Baltic states, Romania, and so forth. And, of course, Hitler went on to attack Denmark, Norway, the Benelux countries, and so forth. But
they were originally aligned, absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Hey, we've got some more callers, so I've got to cut it short. Thanks so much for calling, Walt, and thank you again for your service. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got a couple of callers waiting, so we'll take those calls right now. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I just called to thank WJOB for ruining my Friday. One time a week for the Blabberton show is enough.
All right. Hey, you know what? I mean, look. Hey, I take everybody's calls, and if you've got something to talk about, we'd be glad to talk to you. But if you're just gonna throw out comments that are unnecessary, there's no reason to continue the conversation. So, have you got something else that you want to talk about this morning? All right. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got we have another caller?
Yeah, I'm on a very short leash now, I got to make sure I'm very wary about what comes out of anybody's mouth.
Absolutely. No, you did a good job on that. Let's go back. We'll take another caller. Good. We've got 3 callers. All right. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Tom. Great show.
Thank you.
I have a
the last guy didn't feel that way, but that's okay.
I have a question. Does anybody know the huge buildings that are going on 73rd and Mississippi? We got the huge buildings south of the South Lake Mall, but now they got the huge warehouses right off that expressway on 73rd in Mississippi.
And that's what they are. They're warehouses. That's what I was told. Actually, I was talking to some contacts of mine at the Teamsters Union, and they said they understood those to be warehouses. Because I asked the same question. I mean, you're seeing an awful lot of new construction along I-65 right now. It's massive. And my understanding is a lot of companies are looking at Indiana saying it's a lot cheaper to do business here than Illinois. And so, again, the best guess I have is that they're warehouses. But what's going in there, I don't know.
Yeah, well, yesterday I caught part of the Chicago mayor's thing that he's going to go after the big companies in Chicago and get more money for them. Is he that stupid that they're just going to move to Indiana? Why stay in Chicago?
You know what? I just, again, I'm no fan of Johnson. I'm no fan of Pritzker. And I just think that every day they get up and try and prove me right when I say that they are the most incompetent elected officials in America. They just keep on driving Chicago into the ground and the state of Illinois into the ground. There is all kinds of statistical proof about the huge numbers of people that are moving from Illinois to Indiana. I mean, every single day. They're moving by the thousands to get out of Illinois. And Pritzker talks about like he's doing this great job. And Johnson, I mean, I'm sorry, but, you know, Andy Shaw, when he was on my show last year, he got it right. He said the guy was the most incompetent person to ever be elected to office to run the third largest city in the nation. And prior to doing that, he ran a classroom with 35 students. He just doesn't have the abilities, he doesn't have the skills, he doesn't have the experience to run that city. So it doesn't surprise me that he's talking about turning the screws, because it's just like opening the floodgates to come to Indiana.
To get back to those warehouses, what really disappoints me is where the Maryville Little League field used to be, right off the expressway. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s when my son played there, you had to get there early to get a parking space. Now you go by there because of all the warehouses and stuff. They have a couple of dugouts just standing, the big, scores building just standing. Where are these kids playing baseball at? I looked at, the Little League is a feeder system for the high school, and Maryville was always competitive in the 80s and 90s. I look back from 2000 to 2024, the high school baseball team has only won like 100 games. I mean, what happened? And I tried to reach out to some of the sports writers from the Times and Davich to go out there, take pictures of this. It used to be a beautiful complex. There's nothing there. Where are these kids playing now?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. And again, it's always that challenge, right? I mean, you can put Little League fields elsewhere. And so I'm going to make an assumption that they've been relocated to a different location. But I will say this, all of those warehouses are great, but realize that those warehouses are going to create a lot more traffic too, a lot more truck traffic on I-65. And I-65's kind of at its limits in Northwest Indiana. So it's only going to increase traffic too, but financially, creating jobs, creating tax base, it's all good for the area as well. And hopefully the city or town where those Little League fields, that be the town of Maryville, that they're relocated, and they're going to have the wherewithal because they're going to have additional tax money.
By their record, they must not be playing baseball in Maryville because they won 100 games in 20 years. That's 5 games a year and 2 conference games a year. They used to have terrific boys baseball and girls softball. And
they're still very competitive, though. Maryville is still very competitive for baseball.
Okay, Tom, great show.
Hey, thanks so much for calling.
Still waiting for my hat.
All right, thanks again. 845-1100, got a couple more callers, and we're going to go to a break. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, Tom, your previous caller that asked you if the mayor of Chicago was stupid?
Yes.
Hey, caller, you ever see his haircut? What do you think?
You got it, but you've just got to wonder, what goes through his mind when he says the things that he says? How about the one where he said a couple of weeks ago, they don't have a budget crisis in Chicago, they have a revenue crisis? I mean, do you not understand what the word budget means? Budget basically means you're balancing revenues against expenses, and this dingbat says, "No, we don't have a budget crisis. We have a revenue crisis." It's like, really? I mean,
wait till the 33-year-old dingbat that gets a hold of New York City that's never had a job gets a hold of that thing. Yeah.
You know, I worry about what's going on in New York. Although I do think I think there are a lot of Republicans who are really happy that he got elected, because they believe that it's going to influence voters across the nation. But I worry first and foremost about the city of Chicago, because I love Chicago. I love to ride my bike up there. I love to go out there. I love the cultural institutions. Of course, I used to be involved running one of them. I mean, I love the city of Chicago. But Brandon Johnson doesn't understand what the city of Chicago is, and he doesn't understand the neighborhoods for that matter. I've been trying to get Willie Wilson to come on to talk about crime in the neighborhoods. I mean, he has been such a disaster, and he just doesn't get it. And it's like, I don't think he cares.
You don't get it. Tom, you remember Greektown in Chicago? You familiar
sure
with it?
I do. Sure, very familiar.
I remember back in the late 90s, I don't know if you could remember these restaurants, but back in the late 90s, you'd go before the Bulls game and go to the Parthenon or Costa's.
Yeah, the Parthenon especially. Was that the flaming cheese?
What a time. Yep. It's over. It's over.
Well, you know what? Back in the day, they used to have the all-night ride, the Wham ride that Hammond hosts. Basically, I started, and it was the influence of the all-night ride Chicago. And when you went through Greektown, you would see just stacks of bicycles. People would go as far as Greektown. They'd stop, and they'd get shots, and they'd have a ball. And I don't think they ever completed the ride, but it was a fun time. And
what a blast.
That whole area, though, it's just being ruined by the crime, the homelessness, all of the things that are going on in Chicago. And then you've got this mayor who's, I mean, I actually think that his nickname should be Nero, because he's just fiddling away while the place is burning, and he doesn't care.
I'm telling you, what a shame. What a shame. It's really disappointing because, living in Northwest Indiana, 35 minutes, you go have a really great time and come right back home. I mean, terrible.
And there's no substitute. As great as Northwest Indiana is, there's no substitute for going out to some of those places, some of those venues that exist in Chicago. And he is killing that city. He is killing it off day by day. 30% vacancy rate now on the Magnificent Mile. I mean, that should be totally unacceptable. People should be up in arms saying, that's not acceptable. That's one of the premier shopping areas in the world, and it's 30% vacancy. Why? Because Brandon Johnson says, well, there's no crime on Michigan Avenue, even though they have these crash and grab stuff that goes on all the time. Oh, there's no problem. Really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Louis Vuitton gets robbed every other day in the broad daylight. There's no problem.
There's no problem.
Okay.
Hey, thanks so much for calling.
Hey, Tom, real quick. How about the greatest stock trader of all times retiring?
Oh yeah, she's announced it. I will say this: Nancy Pelosi gave a very nice recorded speech. She quoted, St. Francis, which of course San Francisco is named for. But I mean, it was a very eloquent statement. But am I going to miss Nancy Pelosi? Absolutely not. She was in there really for herself all these years. She padded her pocketbooks to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars with insider trading. I'm not going to miss her at all. Hey, thanks so much.
Hundreds.
Thank you. 845-1100. I have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Mont?
I'm well. Thank you. Hey, so your conversation about segregation in the military and stuff like that is really like.
And thank you for your service, because you're a veteran as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I always tell everybody, greatest danger I was ever in was falling off a bar stool in Germany. But never in any kind of combat. So I thank all those people who put themselves there.
But you put yourself in that position. You were available, and you could have been called up, and that's the really important part. So
it was a pretty dangerous time. I mean, I was in between 82 and 84, and the closest time we've ever come to nuclear annihilation was October, November of 1983.
Absolutely, and people don't realize how close that was.
That's a
far
story
closer
that needs
than,
to be told.
You know what, Mont? Tell you what, you and I need to talk off the air because I need to have you come on one day on the regular Wednesday show, and we need to tell that story because you're right.
Yeah.
People think of the October Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, and they fail to realize that in the fall of 1983, we came within seconds of being annihilated.
We were within seconds because the only reason it didn't happen is because some Soviet officer didn't believe the information that he was getting from a new satellite system. Yep. And that's the only reason we are all still alive and breathing on this planet.
You're right.
And so, but anyway, there's a whole series of events in 1983, starting out with like the KALA downing.
That all lead to it, right? There's this domino effect.
All lead to,
yes.
And the Soviets were so paranoid about Reagan and Thatcher. It's surprising. And, but anyway, the reason I called, it also has a kind of relationship to, the Soviet bloc, was one person you missed in recognizing the desegregation of the military was Stuart Symington, Senator Symington from Missouri. He was the first Secretary of the Air Force, actually advocated for the creation of the Air Force, and was pretty much responsible for the Berlin airlift that kept people fed during the blockade. They thought they were going to be able to take over.
You're right about that, but I'm going to throw another name out that you're going to be very familiar with, and that's Curtis LeMay.
Yeah.
So LeMay, of course, in his later years, he's remembered as being the running mate for George Wallace, who was, of course, a segregationist, which is really, really odd because LeMay, during World War II, he was the commanding officer of 8th Air Force, and he basically advocated using the Red Tails, using the Tuskegee Airmen as escorts for the bombers. And he said, they're great flyers. Why not use them? And so he actually played a role as well. But you're right, Symington definitely did his part in desegregating the military.
One of the greatest resistors of desegregation is a famous general, and has a lot of everyone knows who he is. Everyone did know who he was. I don't know about today's population, but everyone back in the day knew who this guy was. Douglas MacArthur.
Yeah, MacArthur was a segregationist, no question.
He was definitely a segregationist and really slowed everything about integrating the Far East. And then until he was actually replaced by, I think, General Ridgway, if I'm not mistaken.
Right,
but
Matthew Ridgway.
But yeah, there's a lot of information about that, and I wish there were more books on the subject. I couldn't really find a whole lot of books on the subject, but I thought it was interesting when you brought it up the other day, and I thought about that, and I'm glad you started talking about it again today. But yeah, some great topics today. Glad that Nancy Pelosi is retiring. That's great news. I'm actually glad to see that Mom Donnie won New York, because that's going to be a failure, just like every other socialist experiment has been a failure. And 47% of his tax base is already thinking of moving to Florida. So
but how could you be a voter in New York, and all you had to do was look at what's happened in Chicago to realize that Mondami's going to be a failure? Because I mean, of course, Johnson is far more conservative than Mondami, but.
Well, Tom, look who they voted for. This guy's never had a job. He's a trust fund baby.
Yeah.
He's never had a job. And it's the same people who are voting for him. Those people, are overly educated, probably have master's degrees in, ceramics or something like that, something ridiculous, but they're living on mom and dad's money, and they're like, oh, we've got to do so much for these immigrants, and I don't understand what they're thinking, but it's just more of the pathological empathy of these, I like that new term, awfuls, the affluent, female voter. I can't remember what the acronym stands for.
Affluent white female.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the rest of it. But
85% of that demographic voted for this guy, and I'm hoping that they remember when they voted for him when they're all wearing burqas.
He's going to be a disaster, but just thankfully it's 880 miles from us, but 35 miles to our north, to our northeast over here is the city of Chicago, and it's a
big stage, and when it fails, it's going to be seen everywhere around the world.
It sure is. Hey, Mont, thank you so much. Thanks again. Thanks for your service. And I will call you because I'd love to do that show about what happened in the fall of 1983. A lot of people don't know about it. Take care. We're going to take a quick commercial break. It's the Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back. And we're going to do traffic and weather in a few minutes, but we've got a caller that's been holding. And so let's take that caller right away. Good morning. You've been holding. You're on the air.
Yeah, hey, Tom, I consider you fair-minded and pretty much impartial. Can you give the audience a breakdown as to what is the actual point of contention between these Democrats and Republicans on opening the government up? On one hand, with the Democrats, Republicans are trying to take health care away from rank-and-file Americans. On the other side, you're hearing about $200 billion for illegal alien-free health care. The rest of it of something like $1.5 trillion for their boondoggles. What's your interpretation of what the actual impasse is?
I'm glad you brought that up. Look, I look at it. They've passed a clean resolution, continuing resolution for, 13 or 14 times under the Biden administration. And the Republicans, I have to say, I think they're right in passing the continuing resolution, just continue everything as is, and then right away, Congress needs to sort out the mess created under the Affordable Care Act and those subsidies, okay? Because there's too many people that are dependent on the Affordable Care Act for their health insurance, and they're going to get squeezed significantly. The Affordable Care Act never should have gotten this far out. They should have fixed the Affordable Care Act years ago. Even Obama admits that it wasn't perfect and that it needed some fine-tuning. And they've kicked this can down the road too long, and it needs to be fixed. But the Democrats right now holding out because they want a deal on all these other things is just wrong. And I think just pass the continuing resolution, get government back working, and then force Congress to have the debates that they need to have. I just think the Democrats are wrong on this one.
Do you think Obamacare can be fixed?
I think it can be, but I'm concerned that the Democrats don't trust the Republicans and the Republicans don't trust the Democrats. I'm afraid that it's going to be a stalemate at best in trying to fix it. What they'll probably do is just continue the subsidies, and the subsidies are part of the problem. The biggest problem with the Affordable Care Act, and again, I mentioned the other day, I've testified in federal court on it. I know the act extremely well. One of the biggest problems is that it was envisioned to take down the barriers between states that you could buy health insurance on a more widespread basis. If you wanted to buy health insurance from a plan from a different state, you could. They put too many provisions in there to protect the insurance companies. All right. The idea was to create more competition, and they actually reduced the competition. Take a look at, since the Affordable Care Act was created, the number of insurance companies that exist, health insurance companies, has shrunk. Cigna and Humana have merged together. United Healthcare is basically a product of the old MetLife and Travelers. You've seen basically fewer players in the market instead of more players in the market. You have fewer options instead of more options. It really, truly has not worked the way it was supposed to. There are some great provisions of the Affordable Care Act. There are some really good provisions, and the best one is the one that says that everybody that's insured should be able to get an annual physical at no cost to them. That's a great provision because it cuts down on the dependency on emergency rooms and it allows people to find out what's going on with them health-wise before it's significant. So catching cancer in its infancy, for example, by doing a 40-panel blood test makes a lot of sense. So there are some very good things about the Affordable Care Act, but there are some real problems with it. And the biggest problem is that it reduces competition between healthcare providers. It's actually caused a shrinking of the number of competitors that are out there. And same thing with anything else. If you can buy a car from 2 sources, the price is going to go up, right? If you can buy a car from 50 sources, the price goes down. And it really hasn't had the impact that it should. It needs to be fixed. The subsidies are not the answer. The subsidies really came into play and got increased during COVID, and it's very costly, and it's a problem. But a lot of people depend on it for their insurance now. So there has to be some overhaul. But don't hold the traffic controllers, don't hold the TSA agents and the military and everybody else that relies on a paycheck from the federal government. Don't hold them hostage. Pay those people. Don't pay Congress. Don't pay Congress.
The really galling problem on this whole thing is that instead of explaining it to the public, both sides, the way you're saying right now, you've got these the right and the left, the hardcore left of the Democratic Party, which to me they're communist, and this is their golden opportunity to take down the old system. And they don't care if they burn the whole country down to do it. Nobody explains that to anybody. And then on the other side, you're right. The old-time country club Republicans love big business, big corporations. They have no problem with throwing more money at the military-industrial complex, including insurance companies.
Yep.
So nobody explains this to the American people. The media is basically bought and owned,
The media doesn't even bother. The media doesn't bother to understand this issue with the Affordable Care Act. How many stories have you seen that actually do a deep dive into the problems with the Affordable Care Act? They won't do it because the media likes to make Obama out to be somebody that he wasn't. I mean, I'm not saying he was a bad president, but they make him out to be far better than he was. And because of that, they refuse to do any reports showing the shortcomings on the Affordable Care Act. And they should, and they won't. And there lies the problems. And you're right, the Republicans, they're in bed with these insurance companies. The insurance companies don't want those subsidies to go away. They don't want changes to happen. They like the competition that they have. So, they don't want more competition. So the Republicans basically, I don't know that some of the claims made by the Democrats aren't correct, that it's going to be very hard to trust some of the Republicans when it comes to tinkering with the Affordable Care Act. But at the same time, the Affordable Care Act knows that they've got to make those changes. So it's crazy.
To me, the media anymore is they're basically fear mongering for the left. I can't really honestly say they give the same kind of the carrot of water for the right the way they do the left. Why that is you could argue that all day long, but they're not in the business of informing the public. They're in the business of pushing a political agenda.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the media. I'm glad you brought up the media because I'll tell you right now, there's going to be some major change going on in news coverage, the legacy media in the next few years. CBS was bought by Ellison, one of the wealthiest guys in the world. He's going to make some big changes there. You're going to see CBS move far, far more to the right than it's been historically. I think, to be honest with you, I think CNN, it's probably going to get sold in the next couple of months or years, and you're going to see a change at CNN. And MSNBC is not making money, and Comcast is basically spinning it off, so I don't know how long that exists. So I think you'll see a change in the news media over the next couple of years. But again, the news media shouldn't be to the right or to the left. It should be a place that we can go to get information, and we can't.
To me, I think the future is the more independent pundits out there, people that actually, let's say, dig up the facts, and independent journalists that could podcast and get this out to the public. the old dinosaur media, I think, if it continues along the path they're on, like you're saying, they have been, they're done. But the problem is I know when the Democrats were in power, they declared war against independent media. They did everything they could to shut down independent voices on the internet.
They did,
and that kind of thing. And I think if we just follow the evolution of this thing, the old dinosaur media is done. Yeah, it's not going to ever come back the way it was. But the problem is with depending on who takes political power in this country. We talk about a First Amendment, but that First Amendment they've already made a lot of inroads trying to shut that thing down, and I'm afraid that it's happened in other countries where all you get is the government line, and I'm afraid that that could happen here easily.
I think you're right, and again, I don't want the government to feed me my information, and I don't want a jaundiced press. I want a news media that's going to give me the facts, give me information, and let me make a decision as to whether I think it's correct or not. And that's what we've lost in this country. Every pundit on those networks, for example, has an opinion, and they give their opinion. And I just want the news. Okay, tell me what's going on. Don't give me your opinion. Let me make my opinion on my own. I don't need to be influenced by David Muir or John Dickerson or anybody else in the legacy media. And for that matter, Fox News really is getting so worn out. You don't have to be 24/7 cheerleaders for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done a lot of good things, but he's not perfect. He's no more perfect than Barack Obama. So let's knock it off already. Let's point out that some of the things he's done is wrong, that he's made mistakes, but Fox feels that they have to counterbalance CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and NBC, so they're 24/7 cheerleaders for Donald Trump. It's just sad. It's sad, and then it pushes people into reading these independent sources, and some of which is great news and some of which is just totally false. It's just made up by some guy in his basement in probably in Russia.
The whole point there of my call today was trying to get to the bottom of what is the impasse here. It's lost in all this political noise, and it's a shame the public hasn't awakened to the fact they're being played by both sides, and they ought to just tell them all, go to
You're
hell.
Right. No, you know what? You are so right, and you're a voice of reason a lot of times when you call, and I really appreciate your calls because you're right about that. The American people, it would be nice, wouldn't it, if we could just all stand up and tell the Democrats and the Republicans where to shove their political agendas and tell the news media to do the same things. And you know what? We can get along together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can get along. We can talk about issues, and we can solve issues if we could just talk. And to me, I'm at wit's end when it comes to the national Democrats and the national Republicans. When I say Democrats, I'm not talking about the local Democrats. There's some really good people here, and there's good local Republicans too. But nationally, what a farce it's become. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, a bunch of just windbags, people that should way past their prime and serving in office, have filled their pockets right and left, and it's just sad. It really is sad that we have to stand for that, and we have no recourse. And the same is true with the legacy media, who tries to feed us these agendas instead of giving us factual information. It's really, really sad.
And the thing is, the young generation coming up, they're swinging way more over to the left now, and you can't really blame them because nobody's giving them the facts.
I don't know if that's true.
Propaganda 24/7. It's a shame, and I'm an old fart. I had my generation and everything else. I had my crowd that we interact with and everything. We're stuck in like the 1960s or something like that. But at times, it's the young people that are going to guide this country, and it's scary because they don't get their facts. They get spin all day long, and I can't really blame them for
but
actually
hold on a
picking
second.
up a lot of the ideas they have.
Hold on a second, because I'm going to prove this point. Joe, put your mic up for a second. Hey, Joe, how often do you watch the so-called legacy news media like ABC, NBC, CBS for your news?
Personally?
Yeah.
Never.
See, that's it. That's my point. If you ask my son, my daughter, their friends, if you ask Adriana, if you ask Lynette, they all tell you they basically don't use the legacy media as a venue for information. They get their information from podcasts, from the internet. Some of it's jaundiced, some of it's influenced, some of it's true, some of it's false, but they're not being influenced by that. I think that's refreshing, that they may not be all marching to the same drummer, because they're smart enough to know that they don't want to be influenced.
Right. I would say always keep whoever is telling you something, keep in arm's length. Always try to dig up the facts best yourself. Don't let anybody spin you the way that they want you to be spun. It's good to hear that young people have that attitude. I hope that it would be nice if the majority of them had that attitude. The problem is with our educational system and that they're being indoctrinated right off the get-go. But it's like Solzhenitsyn said, the last thing they take from you is your mind, and you have to give them that.
But
you need to keep an independent mind.
Once again, you look at test scores and you look at all the things and you say, wow, we're in trouble. But then you talk to a guy like Joe and you realize we're not in trouble, because they're smart enough that they've basically looked beyond some of the inequities and some of the shortcomings that you and I and everybody else put in place for them. They're smart enough to look at Lynette when I talked to her the other day about the deficit. And she said, yeah, the deficit is a concern, because she realizes that her generation is going to have to pay the deficit, which was created by our generation. So I think the up-and-coming generations are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and they're the best hope we have, because we're getting old, and we've certainly screwed up this country, so let's hope they do better than us. Hey, thanks for calling.
There's enough of them out there. I'll let you go with that, right. But I hope there's enough of them out there.
I hope so, too. Thanks for calling.
All right, okay.
845-1100 is the number to call, and we don't have a caller. Why don't we take a quick break again, if that's okay? And then we'll come back. We'll do traffic and weather, and maybe we'll even talk a little sports, Joe. All right. Yeah, Joe's like, yes, let's talk sports. All right, we'll be right back. It's the Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. More callers, so we're going to go right to the calls. So let's take those calls. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning. Hey, hung up. All right. Call back, sir, and let's take this call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Tom. Good morning. I think probably the best place to get your most accurate, up-to-date, non-biased news is every Tuesday morning right here on WJOB.
Well, okay. And your point is, look, Verley and Michelle give their views, and their views are obviously more to the left than yours or mine. But I know them both, and I will say that they basically try to explain their views, and that's fine. And if you enjoy those views, then you're going to listen. And if you don't enjoy those views, you probably listen to be able to comment about the fact that you don't agree with them. The problem, though, is that talk radio isn't a source that, I would hope that people don't sit there and say, well, I believe this because Tom Dabertin said, all right, or Dave Kuziak or Verley or anybody, Jed. Talk radio is a forum. But news sources these days, I mean, you got to admit, you can't trust in 90% of the stuff that's out there. If you go on social media and you look at these news reports, I mean, I've mentioned before, I even named my dog for Sophie Cunningham, right? So I watched the WNBA, I watched the Indiana Fever. There are so many stories out there right now from these phony news sources about Sophie Cunningham I don't know what's true. I mean, she's leaving, she's saying she's doing this, she's doing that, and you find out that they're all false. And people are making stories up about Sophie Cunningham, which in the world of sports, she's an up and rising figure, but she's not a huge figure. And if they do it on her, imagine what they do about everything else. You go online these days and you see all these phony reports about Trump and phony reports about the U.S. government. You name it, it's out there, and it's all fraudulent. It's sad.
Hey, can I get Joe Cimino to weigh in on something?
Sure, you can.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Joe can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, Joe, do you think that perhaps young people today have the attitude they have is that because they've never really busted their rear ends to attain something and then just had it taken away from them unfairly?
All I'll say about that is not every person's the same, right? And that's with every generation. You're going to have the people that bust their butts and the people that don't. You're going to have the people that are entitled to things and the people that are not. And that's just the way that the world works. I guess I can't speak for everyone. I try to bust my tail so that when, everything that I have is, worked for and not given to me. So then when it's taken away, I have a reason to be upset or I have something to argue about.
What do you think of this mayor of New York City?
I don't know. Honestly, I probably should do a little more research on it considering my family's out in Connecticut. It's like an hour away from New York. I spend a lot of time out there. I go to visit, so I probably should learn a little bit about it, but I have no comment about Mamdani. It seems like our generation is very happy about it, but it seems like you guys aren't. So,
well, there's a lot. Look, there is a lot of information that the caller is right. Your generation needs to learn about Mamdani, but I also get the point that you're in Chicago, so in the Chicago area you're not really looking at it. But I will say this much: for all of the people that work here at WJOB, you, Matt, Lynette, Adriana, you're all very hardworking. I mean, Adriana doesn't just work here at WJOB. She also works. She mentions it. She works at Cracker Barrel. I mean, she works 2 jobs. You guys are all busy and involved in a lot of other things, and so. The claim that your generation is like a bunch of slackers is not true. You guys get up at 4:35 in the morning to come here and work here, and I have to say there's a lot of promise out of your generation. There's some concerns, but there's some promise too. Yes, go ahead.
Tom, about those hardworking young people at WJOB. Now, what if you came in and say, hey, I need to take, because you're hardworking, I need to take 25, 30% of that salary and give it over here to somebody that doesn't seem to want to work. How would they feel then?
They would get $20, so I think it would probably be like a meal. So I don't know if it's that big of a deal.
But the caller's point is that Mamdani, that's what he's saying. He's saying he's going to pay for all these ridiculous programs, and he's going to pay for it with everybody's money. And, I mean, it's disturbing. It's totally disturbing. I don't understand, though, how you can blame the younger generation for voting in Mamdani, but when you look at it, there's a lot of people, including people my age, your age, that voted for him. And I don't know what they were thinking. I don't understand how they came to the conclusion that he was the best choice to lead New York City. And New York City is going to be a real problem, and it's going to make what's his name? Who was the mayor of New York that was such a disaster a few years back? The tall mayor. I can't think of his name now.
Bloomberg.
Who was it?
Was it Bloomberg?
Not Bloomberg. The guy after Bloomberg. That was a real disaster. And he's going to make him look good, just like Johnson is making Lori Lightfoot look pretty decent. I mean, Lori Lightfoot was a disaster, and then you get Johnson, who makes her look pretty good.
Tom, I don't know if you heard my comment the other day, and I think Joe was the producer when I made the call a couple days ago, talking to a female black cab driver in Washington, D.C., older. And she praised the day Trump came into office and brought in the National Guard and the feds into the city. She said, after he came in and made that move, I am now able to drive into neighborhoods I would never have entered before to give people a ride who have called for a taxi. She said it's been a wonderful thing.
And you know what? I can totally understand why she would say that, because let's face it, Washington, D.C. was really crime-ridden, had a lot of problems, and people don't like Donald Trump. They don't like Donald Trump bringing in the National Guard, but he cleaned up Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was, the proverbial hellhole, and he cleaned it up. And you got to give him credit, and that's part of the problem in this country. Okay, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but he did something well. Give him credit for it. All right, you don't have to like everybody that does everything. I mean, we've even had these conversations about, Frank Mervan and people. Oh, I don't like him for anything he does. Okay, but he's a human being. He's done some things well. You don't have. That doesn't mean that you have to vote for him again. But if you like, if you don't like anything a person does, I think it's problematic. I think that's part of the problem that we have is we draw these firm lines now. Oh, can't like that person because of whatever. I mean, I guess I will preempt, because I know you're a very a smart caller, and so you're going to ask me, well, okay, name one good thing Nancy Pelosi has done other than fill her own pockets, and that one I would say would leave me with some question if you asked it.
Tom, good show. I hope Joe, when he talks to people his age, thinks about that, about him busting his butt and doing everything he can, going to school and working and making life decisions. If he had to give everything he's worked for away to somebody that just did not want to work, how he would feel, how his friends of that age group would feel. And that's what we're looking at with socialism.
You're right. And look, I had this, I'll just mention this before you go. I had a friend, somebody that I've known for a long time, lives in Whiting, Robertsdale. She doesn't talk to me anymore because she got upset. She was on Facebook as well as I, and she posted about how, she was just totally opposed to this idea that people who are on Medicare might have to work part-time and might have to do work. And she was totally opposed to it. And I said, well, what's wrong with you? I know you can work. And she just, oh my gosh, she just hasn't talked to me since. And you know what? I mean, I'm sorry, but if you can't work because you have a medical or physical condition, it's one thing. But this is a person who basically has been using the government rolls to pay for her health insurance, and it's just sad. And my point to her was, why should I be paying for your health insurance? And her point was, well, that's why you work. So we'll leave it at that.
Hey, Joe Cimino.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Cimino.
I can hear you.
Have a great day.
You have a great day.
All right. 845-1100, we've got some more callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hi, Tom. Quickly, it's Brad Jindal. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Brad.
I'm down here on 77th and Park Central in New York City. And if you can hear me, it's the start of what probably is one of the biggest cities I've ever been here. The turnout is like no other. Mayor Ed Koch has risen from the grave. The Big Apple is not only rotting to the core, but I'm here to report its funeral, folks. Yes, New York City has passed on to the big communist castle in the sky, and New York has it happen. Anyway, Tom, I've been drinking since last night, so I got to run, and I'll report back Tuesday. But I'll tell you, if I'm not here, it's because I decided to join all the New Yorkers jumping here in the East River. Have a great weekend, Tom. Good New York forever.
Oh, that was great. Brad, that was one of the best. Brad Gibble. Hey, Brad is a very fun guy and a very intelligent guy. There's no doubt about it. But he has a great sense of humor. That was great. Ed Koch came back from the dead, and he's at the funeral. He's at the funeral for New York City. That was good. All right. Well, now we know where he stands on things. We got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Mad Mac, how you boys doing?
Okay, Mad Mac, how are you?
Good. Hey, since it sounds like there's like a new quote unquote disciplinary attitude being instilled there at old WJOB, I guess it appears to be on the host because I haven't heard any callers be banned lately, but apparently the Friday
you could
show
always
is
be the first.
Yeah, well, we had a couple times in the penalty box, and just like Jed's tossed a couple F-bombs out there and had to put himself in the box a few times before. But are we allowed to call anybody a racist anymore in the air, or is that not allowed?
Look, here's the question. Is the person
No,
really,
that's the question. Are we allowed to call anybody?
You can
call. And I call you, Tom, a racist.
Well, you can call me that. I'll adamantly disagree with you, but I guess you could call me that. I mean, you can call people a lot of things on the air. The question is whether your comments are accurate and whether it's deserving. So, go ahead, continue.
Well, I was wondering if anybody was ever going to correct the Tuesday morning host for calling anybody who voted for Trump a racist.
Well, there lies the problem. There lies the problem.
Slipped right through the cracks. Nothing ever mentioned, and yet anybody who voted for Trump was called by one of the hosts. You're an absolute racist if you voted for Trump.
Well, look, you're not a racist because you voted for Trump, and I have plenty of friends, by the way, who are African American who voted for Trump. I know.
What would their race have to do with anything?
Well, that's just it. It had nothing to do with it. They voted for Trump because they were concerned about crime. They were concerned about the economy. They were concerned about some of the problems that we have with other countries and trade. I mean, I can tell you why they voted for Trump, and they're African American, and in fact, I saw one just the other day. And we started talking, and he said, I'm not 100% happy with what Donald Trump's doing, but I'm still glad that I voted for Trump. That's his call, okay? There are plenty of white individuals who voted for Joe Biden, who voted for Kamala Harris, and they're entitled to their opinion. I think that the biggest problem in this country is not enough people vote. And I think that if you want to make an informed decision and you want to choose Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or anybody else, that's your prerogative and you have the right to do so. But where I do have a problem is this blind loyalty, that the National Democratic Party and the National Republican Party are trying to create. I mean, you've got to admit, Mad Mac, you watch Fox News. Fox News is 24/7. It's almost like 24/7 cheerleading, and some of them, of course, were cheerleaders. But that's another story. I mean,
what are CNN and MSNBC?
I was just going to get to that.
What are the New York Times and the Washington Post?
I was just going to get to that. I was going to say, but the reason why they're doing that is because they're balancing against CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and NBC and all the other legacy media that basically have been in bed with the Democratic Party for years. I mean, again,
that would be NBC, CBS, and ABC. You mean, right?
Well, all of them,
and PBS and NPR.
Well, look, NPR.
So we've just listed 8 entities in the media atmosphere, or whatever you want to call it, and you listed for all Democrats, all day long, and you listed one on the conservative side.
Look, it's probably worse. It's probably a 90-10 split in favor of liberal views than conservative.
And then you want to
views.
throw in all the publicly funded universities, and then if you want to throw in the deep state, of which I'm really familiar with because I've got relatives in D.C. who they wouldn't vote for Trump if his dead carcass was laying on their front lawn with $1 billion on.
Well, that's largely because you're related to him, though. I mean, they know where you're standing, so they're just going to vote the opposite. But look,
no.
Seriously, I will point this out. You brought up a comment just now. You mentioned NPR and PBS. You know what's interesting is you haven't really heard too many people. I know there's somebody locally who's been trying to rally the troops, so to speak, to support PBS and NPR, and you just haven't seen too many people care one way or the other. And the reason why is because for all those years they were being given money, our tax dollars, and it ends up that WTTW hasn't missed a beat in their programming.
Well, none of them
their
have.
broadcasting. Well, some of the smaller ones maybe. I think WYAN's feeling the heat. But you know what? I've always felt that it was wrong for us to subsidize certain parts of the media. I think
Who are you talking about who's trying to rally the troops, so to speak?
Oh, just it's a local person that posts on Facebook. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, who is it? Just say who it is.
No, I don't. I don't want to say the name. I'm not going to pull her into it. But she keeps on arguing that we've got to save PBS and NPR, and I disagree. I think that
they'll
have
save themselves. They have all these liberals out there who will easily donate. They've been living on a gold-plated gravy train, and now they've simply got to run a business like a business and look at the bottom line instead of saying, oh, we get to the end of the year and we simply need to put in a request for how much we need to break even again.
Well, there's
some great
programming.
Business.
There's some great programs on PBS and NPR on the radio as well that I listen to and that I watch. But at the same time, I agree with you. They need to go out. They need to find advertisers. They need to find sponsors, just like WJOB does. So I think
they're not going to miss a beat. I mean, my God, in Washington D.C., do you know how many NPR radio stations, public service, whatever you want to call them, the NPR stuff? How many different radio stations are in the Washington D.C. metro area that run independently of each other? There's 12 of them.
Well, again,
they're all within an 18-mile radius.
We all know that we have to cut the deficit, and that's one place to start. So, hey, thanks so much for calling.
Quick question for Joe.
Okay.
Joe, are you heading east or you staying here?
Am I? The jury's still out there, but not for a while.
Head east, brother. Don't make life hard on you.
All right.
Just that simple.
All right.
Head east, brother. You'll be better off.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for calling. 845-1100. We have another caller? No, we don't. Why don't we take a break, and then we'll come right back. It's the Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. And we'll be back after these commercial announcements. To WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. It's Tom Dabertin, the Morning Call Friday edition with Joe Cimino. And Joe said, well, we're getting a lot of calls this morning, and we've got a caller waiting, so we're going to go to the caller. But first, we're going to do traffic and weather. So let's do traffic. Traffic, really, folks, at this point, looking still pretty good. The Ryan isn't is really your trouble spot in Chicago. In Indiana, really no problems. Just be careful on I-65 going southbound. There's construction down to US 30. Again, over the line, 294 is fine. The Ryan is backed up as it should be about this time in the morning. Stevenson, Eisenhower, Kennedy all have backups as well, but it is Friday and it's past 8 o'clock, so it can be expected. And with that, let's go to weather.
All right. It's Friday, November 7th, and it is colder in the office than it is outside.
You're right about that. It's cold in here.
That's why I had to go get the Snuggie out. Jed keeps telling me I dress too comfortable for work, but if he doesn't turn up the heat, then I have no other option but to wear this Snuggie. So, yeah. But anyways, it's going to be 63 outside, a high 63. Just a little bit of clouds, a lot of sun, so enjoy the day. And then tomorrow, you're going to start getting some rain in the morning and then more in the afternoon with a high of 51. And then to end out your weekend, a high of 39 and some snow in the morning. So, yeah, like I've been saying all day, get outside today. It's probably the last nice day of the year. And, it's going to be a crazy rest of your weekend as far as weather goes. So
you know what? Get outside and enjoy the weather today. If there's a sectional championship near you, go to that. Enjoy it. If not, watch it on Jed TV tonight. Tomorrow is going to be one of those days that I plan on spending an awful lot of my time watching football on TV because it's just going to be rotten outside. I'm not going to be outside much, and Sunday doesn't sound any better, although I have 2 dogs that will basically make sure that I go outside because they want to go for walks.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend for football, though. It's a great college football weekend.
Yeah, it is, and there's some good games coming. Do we have a caller?
We
no?
do, as much as I'd like to continue talking about.
All right,
this.
we'll talk about football in just a minute. Let's take the caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning there, guys.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. I usually am, but I have one slight problem, and that is the hold music. I feel like I'm stuck on an elevator, and it's just making me tired. Is there anything that we can change about it? Anything, a little bass or something? Can you sing along with it or something?
So I will tell you that the issue with the hold music.
I know.
If you think it's bad, the entire time we're playing commercials, I have to listen to that as well.
Oh my God!
Yes,
I know there's something going on with the regulations, but I mean, could you sing or play a drum or bang on the desk or something during that? I mean,
I have to agree with you. It is
my
just
God.
it's like riding an elevator all day. It's just it's the epitome of elevator music. Anyway, how are you doing today?
I'm alive. The sun just came out. I'm going to take my puppies out, and I'm going to just enjoy my day. Okay, I'm retired. I don't have to. I just listen to you guys complain and talk about everything, and I'm just so used to WJOB. I can put it on and just go do about have my whole house clean by the time that you're done with your day. Okay, being on the air. What do you think about that? No complaints. How would you like that?
Well,
you like
I'll tell you what.
This is for you.
I think that's great. And you know what? You and I both grew up with WJOB and it played all day and all night. And I can remember when they turned the transmitter down at night and it was harder to hear. And it's great to hear from somebody that listens to WJOB that religiously.
It's just it's in your soul and everything. Like my mom's, I think it was Swap and Shop and all of that, but it's like during the COVID, something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was Bargain Bonanza.
And Jet.
It was Bargain Bonanza.
Bargain Bonanza.
And back in the day, you had Harriet Pinkerton that would come on, and she had the women's show, and it was on about 8:30 in the morning, and you had Cosmo Courier, Larry Peterson, John Anastopoulos. I remember all the different personalities were on the airwaves at WJOB. Lots and lots of fun times and fun memories.
Yeah, and the greatest thing is that when it was like 10 inches of snow out, then we would listen to WJOB to find out, waiting for our school to close. And it was still open, and we had to go through 10 miles through 10 inches of snow to get there. No bus, no nothing, and we made it.
Yeah,
hallelujah.
And then in later years they would have the Monday, or they'd have the morning menus for the different schools. They'd give what the lunch menu was.
Yes,
which
that's all my mom had.
Well, I never really understood why, though. Because think about this. Okay, when they would give the menus, it usually would be at 7:30. So Larry Peterson, for example, would read through, Clark High School's having pizza today.
Yeah.
Well, at 7:30 in the morning, you're getting ready to leave for school. At that point, it was too late to pack a lunch. So they gave the menus for the schools too late in the morning because it was always done at 7:30. And at that point, if they said you're having pizza and you didn't want pizza, it was too late because it was too late to pack a lunch.
No, but that's all we had, and it's like my mom had WJOB going all the time. That was it. I mean, so you got used to it. You just didn't know until you got older, and it's like, now I'm listening to the WJOB, and I can't, no matter who's on, I could be doing whatever. But I would like to, let's protest to get Jed back on the show because I really miss him. Okay, he got me through the COVID, you know what I'm saying? And once in a while he'll show his face and then take off.
Well, he's going to be back on. Now that it's getting colder and he's gotten some work done again, as he mentioned the other day, he actually came on as my guest on my show. I thought that was pretty funny.
Seen that.
He came on as my guest, and did you see what he did? So he comes in, and Jed decides that he's going to rearrange all the chairs, which we had already set up because we knew we had the Chamber show and we had several guests. So we had the chair set up, and Jed comes in and he moves everything around. And then I tell him, hey, you messed the studio up here. You messed the setup because we've got the Chamber show. And he's like, I got to leave. I got to go swim. And that's when he left. And he walked out, and Lynette and I had to drag everything around and reset it. So, yeah.
But see, he's not at that age where you don't move things because I'll fall, I'll hit something, You know what I'm saying? Leave it as
he's
it is.
2 years younger than me. He's 2 years younger than me. He left an older person.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Jed would
Leave it
not
where it is.
appreciate that oldness.
Yeah, well, he fits. Jed fits, but Jed's active. He doesn't look his age.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He does a lot to keep his activity
does.
up. He's definitely more than capable of moving that desk.
Absolutely.
I think he just got into being this grandpa, and really he's making up excuses not to be there so he can be with his grandchildren. I can see that. Okay,
Yeah,
I
he
don't know
wants
if you
to go.
guys can.
He wants to go.
Yeah.
He wants to go race. He wants to go race at the Y in the morning. He wants to race my brother in the swimming
Who
pool.
does that? It's like, but he wants to be this grandpa, full-time grandpa. I understand that. But you know what? You got us used to He's the one that did it. Brainwashed us during the COVID for Jed and his voice. Like therapy is just there, and it's like, oh, my God. So when Jed does come, I was like, then I got to come out of a room that I've been cleaning and say, okay, there's Jed. He is okay. Everything's fine.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
I just want to point out that you were saying he was therapy for everybody else, not that he needs therapy, although sometimes I think he does that too.
Yeah, but it was during the COVID. The time it was just him.
Right. No,
it was
he
just
did.
him,
Look,
and it
he
felt
did
like
it.
just me.
Again,
You know?
I'm going to do these podcasts about the history of WJOB, and you cannot deny that Jed took this station from the ashes and brought it back and made it viable and made it really part of the community and part of Northwest Indiana again, just as it was for 100 years. He did that, and he deserves all the credit in the world for it. And I razz him about everything else. And probably if he's listening right now, I'm going to get a text from him. It's going to be, okay, so what's the punchline? Okay, well, what are you up to now? Because I'm paying him a compliment. And he's like, all right, Dabertin's paying me a compliment. Something's going on. But he deserves a lot of credit for what he did. Fantastic.
Well, I think we should protest. If we're going to protest against something, get Jed back on the TV, on the show.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the protest that I'm getting together. Okay?
All right, very good. Hey, thanks so much
You
for
have
calling.
a great day.
You as well. Take care. 845-1100 is the number to call, and I guess we've got some more callers, so we're going to go to those callers.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard a Jed fan live on air.
Well, you know what? Cousin Phyllis calls every so often, but she's not a Jed fan. She'll call once in a while, but and his dad calls once in a while, and he's not a fan either. So that's the only fan. You're right. That's the only fan I've ever heard.
That's the first time I've ever heard someone get on there and say, "We want Jed back."
the Jed Didolo fan club. One member.
Wow.
One member in counting.
It's starting.
845-1100. We've got some more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Bill from Lowell. How you doing, buddy?
Good, Bill. How are you?
Hey, I got a way to shut down this government shutdown, man. Every air traffic controller needs to land every plane, walk off the job because there's a major shortage, they claim, and say, we're not working, not another plane takes off or lands in the United States of America until you open up this government. Because we're giving billions of dollars to foreign countries while our American people are going without checks, including our military. It's just ungodly what's going on right now. And
it's
both
insane.
sides
It's
are
insane.
100% to blame.
Exactly. Both sides are to blame. I don't blame the Republicans. I don't blame the Democrats. I blame them all because they're at fault. They need to get back to work and get the government running again. The biggest mistake, Bill, is we should have a provision that requires that Congress loses money when the government isn't running, and I'll bet you we'd never have any more shutdowns.
I agree. I don't know why they're getting a check and our American people are not getting checks that work for the government. It's just unbelievable what's going on. But if every air traffic controller was to walk off the job, sit on their hands, I guarantee you this would come to a screeching halt immediately.
I think if the air traffic controllers quit working, I think that would basically drive home the issue. Again, I saw a post the other day, and somebody said, well, the government shutdown hasn't affected me at all. And my response was, yeah, you're right. It hasn't affected you. But millions of people, including our military, rely on the government to pay them. And when you think about all the reliance we have on air traffic controllers and TSA and the FBI and the military and everything else, I mean, we need to get them back to work. We really do.
That's what I'm saying, Tom. If there was a way these air traffic controllers sat in our hands, our own congressmen, senators, hell, the President of the United States needs an airplane in the air. Shut it down and watch how fast this opens back up.
You're right. You're right. That might drive it home, but I still believe that the number one way to avoid a shutdown in the future is to take away the pay of Congress, and they never would be allowed to make up that pay. And you know what? I bet those congressmen and those senators would find a way to keep the government open.
Just like Trump wanted to stop this, filibuster, I say be careful what you wish for.
Yeah,
because
I think that's a stupid
idea. After they went after Trump legally, now Trump's going after them. It's like tit for tat. You know what I mean?
I think
stupid.
I think it's absolutely stupid. I think that Trump made this whole issue about lawfare and using the government to go after enemies, and then he's doing the same thing. So he's just as bad as they were. Look, I think there's a lot of problems right now that exist, but to me, Congress is so dysfunctional right now. The Democrats and the Republicans are basically going after each other.
And they're all to blame.
And they're all to blame. You've got it. They're the reason. They're the cause. And you find out that these people who, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell will go after each other on the floor of the Senate, but it ends up that they're actually really good personal friends. And so what it is it's all an act, right? Nancy Pelosi goes after a Republican, Scalise, and then you find out that they're actually friends. Well, you know what? Don't entertain us. Just give us good government. Quit entertaining us with your shenanigans and your debates that basically aren't actual debates. It's just entertainment. I'm sick
Tom,
and tired of it.
I'll leave you with this, and I would like all the WJOB listeners, yourself, everybody have a great weekend. But I want to say this and get this off my chest. As a Donald Trump supporter, I am so unhappy with my vote. This man, he swore America first, and he's shown me nothing that's making America first right now. I am completely unhappy with the administration. I'm completely unhappy with his so-called transparency. It's not happening. And you're not showing me you're running America first. These tariffs are killing us.
Well, the tariffs actually have done some good, but at the end of the day,
we're paying for it.
At the end of the day, we're all paying for it, and we're paying for it with all the gridlock in government right now, and it's just ridiculous. Hey, thanks for the call.
All right, Tom. Bye.
Got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I like everyone reminiscing about WJOB, and being 62 years old, I have a little history with WJOB.
You sure
and
do.
living right down the street from Warren G. Harding School, and I remember the calling the lunches off. They do the high school, middle schools, and then all the elementary schools had the same food. And I always, being 8, 9 years old, right, I would always cheer when they had pizza, because there was just something about Hammond School System's elementary school sheet pizza. And I think somebody called and said they actually had the recipe for that, which I would love that.
Well, you know what? I saw the recipe. Actually on Facebook. You might troll Facebook because I saw the recipe of pizza, schoolhouse pizza, and I don't know.
It was good. Hamburger on a bun, or you had this, or you had a hot dog, or chili mac. I mean, they were pretty creative, and I think everyone could look. And I think I was eye level with the glass in 4th and 5th grade, because they had the sneeze guard, right? And you walked in and you slid your tray, right?
Right.
and then you went and got your milk, either regular milk or chocolate milk, for a quarter. And you just take kind of one of those. You take a snapshot. All the ladies, all dressed in white, with white aprons, and it seems like they all wore glasses.
And the hairnets.
And the hairnets, exactly.
And
they all look
horn-rimmed glasses. Horn-rimmed
Yes,
glasses.
they all wore glasses. That's the one thing I remember at Harding School, and I only lived a couple blocks away. And I asked Jed about 5 years ago, before I die, I would love to hear, and I'm talking to him one-on-one because it was probably just him and I listening to the radio that day. I wanted to hear Irv Lewin's violin music one more time before I died. Because I knew it was 7:55, and I lived just a couple blocks away from Warren G. Harding School, so I had to be out of the house by Irv Lewin's music to walk the couple blocks to school and make it on time. And Jed said, you know what he told me, Tom? Absolutely not.
Well,
he hated it.
Well, Irv Lewin was certainly a connection for me to WJOB, because I've told the story before. I got to know Irv Lewin. Irv used to have me come on his show, and he was a really good guy to me, and he's part of the connection back to the early days of my memories of WJOB. Although I can remember listening to WJOB. It was always on in the kitchen in the morning. You had Larry Peterson. You had Cosmo Courier. You had John Anastopoulos. Remember John Anastopoulos?
Oh, yeah. And John Premitz on sports.
Yes. And I mean, you had Harriet Pinkerton. Her show came on after Irv Lewin. And her show was more of basically focused toward women. And kind of a Miss Manners type show, and then Larry Peterson had a noontime talk show, and WJOB, boy, I mean, the 1960s and 70s, it had an influence on every one of us, and we all swore we'd never listen to the station, and then here we are.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. And just want to hit a couple things. You mentioned the African American tank battalion. It was the 761st,
right?
And they became active in 1944, and they were actually coined the phrase. They were Patton's Panthers. They were instrumental in the Battle of the Bulge. You were right, but after that, liberating 30 cities, and they were the only tank battalion in World War II. They saw combat 186 days in a row. Could you imagine that? 6 months straight combat, and Patton gave him and you're right about him. He really wanted to integrate, and he didn't care if you were a fighter. He didn't care what color you were.
Absolutely right. He said they all bleed the same. He said all bleed the same.
The Black Panthers did not get recognition until 1977 when Jimmy Carter recognized them as one of the most lethal and successful and dependable tank battalions in World War II, which was the 761st. So,
but it's interesting. It's interesting. You know the story, and I know the story, but I have to say most listeners don't know about the 761st. Most listeners don't know about some of the things. MX and I talk a little bit about Patton, all right? Because, Patton, the great liberator of the prisoner of war camps. And, of course, my father was in Stalag 17B. So he, basically Patton liberated the prisoner of war camps. And I just read a book recently where, and I mentioned this Wednesday, where Patton, once again, he goes into Moosburg and he liberates the POWs from the Germans. And I mean, he was bigger than life. People know him largely from the movie that was made in 1970 with George C. Scott.
Sure.
But they don't know the real story of George Patton. There's a lot more to that story. And again, even his role in desegregation, and he doesn't get any credit for it. And, we named stuff after everybody else, but how many Patton avenues, how many Patton boulevards or Patton highways or Patton airports do we have in this nation? None.
And his accident where he became paralyzed is still a mystery today.
Oh, I agree.
Which is it was one of those they wanted to take him out, And if you look at the car, it's not that bad. I mean, it was a huge tank of a car. I believe it was a Tucker, and it was not a Tucker, but DeSoto, and it kind of looks like incidental damage. But how did he break his neck? And that's always huge mystery. But I'm going to leave you with one thing. I got to get to work and deliver commerce. But what are your, and you might have covered it, and I apologize, that Todd Rokita circumventing our governor asking for military assistance from the president. I think Todd is way out in front of his skis, inappropriate, and it's not his call.
It's not
That's
his call.
my opinion.
It's just not his call. If Todd Rokita wants to be governor, he should run for governor. Okay.
Amen. Exactly.
Now, once again, we look, Democrats and Republicans both, okay, state level and federal level. It's all about how much, what can I say? What can I do to get on, television? What can I do to get publicity? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It just turns my stomach.
He could be starting down that road. Again, my personal opinion, because he knows, and everybody knows, and when SB 1 really kicks in,
yes.
Governor Braun is a one and done. He's a one-term governor.
I agree with you there. You know what? I don't think that I can name too much that Braun's done so far that I like. Granted, he's only been in office for 10 months, but he really hasn't done anything that I could say, oh, well, okay, but, he did this. You can have that argument on anybody else. Again, I could probably find something I like about Trump or Pelosi or McConnell or any of them. But when it comes to Braun, there isn't anything so far he's come up with that I like. He wants to create toll roads out of our interstates. I mean, it's just like he's come up with such harebrained ideas, and SB 1 is a disaster. And just wait 2 or 3 years.
2 years. I'm going to say 2 years when that fully kicks in. And you touched it. You touched on it. I've definitely touched on it. And a lot of people said, we will miss Governor Holcomb when he's gone, because he was such a proponent and a fan and did a lot for Northwest Indiana, a Democratic stronghold. He was here a lot and did a lot for us. And I think that's why a lot of Southern Republicans didn't like him, and they were glad he termed out. But you know what? I'm going to say it. I miss him, and I knew I was going to have egg on my face when I said, hey, we're going to miss him when he's gone, and here it is.
No, you know what? He was a centrist, and that's what we need in government at all levels. We need a centrist. We don't need
They're all gone, Todd. You know it. They're all gone. They're all gone.
They're all gone. They're gone. You're absolutely right. It's like the neutron bomb actually went off, and it's wiped out the center. Okay, all we have are extremists on both ends. So,
but who's doing all the working? Who's doing all the working, tax-paying, and sweating and dying in the country? The middle.
Absolutely, we're the ones paying for all this. We're the ones that
exactly.
that are unfortunately having to deal with the two extremes. It's just sad. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Look at you and I agreeing.
Well, we look. You know what? But there's the thing. We're both centrist, and so
exactly
we can agree.
right.
We can agree. It's the problem is that the focus is on the two extremes, and it ought to be the focus on the majority, not the minority. But
you're right.
There you go. Hey, thanks so much for the call. You as well.
You got it.
845-1100 is the number. We've got more callers, so good morning. You're on the air.
With this, you were talking about the air traffic controllers earlier. Do you think after this fiasco is over, do you think it's time to privatize the FAA? This is ridiculous. These guys are working like dogs, and these planes with hundreds of people on them each are flying around. This is a bunch of bull.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's total bull. And once again, the idea that they're being asked to show up to work and they're not getting paychecks, you wouldn't show up to work. You wouldn't show your job and do it for free.
Well, and here's the thing, Tom, and you know this because you've negotiated a bunch of contracts. You could have, even if they are union, you could have most union contracts do have a no strike clause if the negotiations are in fair faith.
No, you're right. In fact, I'm negotiating 2 contracts right now, and both of them have the no strike clause. You're absolutely right. It's quite
privatize
common.
it.
That's not a bad idea. I just think that it's sad that so that would solve the problem with the air traffic controllers. But what are you going to do as far as the military and federal law enforcement and the TSA and everybody else? You can't privatize them. I think it's just sad that we live in a country as great as America is, and we can't figure a way to, one, balance our budget, and two, to find the way to sit down together and pass a continuing resolution. That's just insane. It's embarrassing.
No, they need to privatize that thing. For instance, my wife a couple nights ago was like, "Hey, we usually go down to Florida before Christmas," and she goes, "Oh, I'm gonna book something." And I go, "I ain't going on no airplane. Not till this is over."
Curiosity, where you usually fly into?
RSW.
Okay.
Fort Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is just nuts, and it can't continue. And we've got to come up with a solution. And to ask men and women to serve in our armed forces, to serve in law enforcement capacities, to serve as air traffic controllers and all the other things, and then say, "Oh yeah, and you're going to work and you're not going to get a paycheck, but you'll get back pay when we finally get to that point." That's just ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
What is there? I think the numbers it's a tick over 7,000 flights daily in the U.S. Right.
Right.
And you're going to play with the wives of them people? I'm sorry. That's where it draws a line for me.
I agree. But once again, I think the first thing we should do, maybe we have to take measures into our own hands. There are ways to put constitutional amendments in place that they can be voted on by the states. And I'll tell you what, I'd be the first one to sign a petition to basically block Congress from getting any pay if there's a government shutdown. They shouldn't be getting paid. They should not get paid.
No.
Absolutely
great
not.
show.
All right, thanks so much for calling.
Yeah.
845-1100 is the number. We got a couple more callers, so we're not going to talk sports today, Joe. We're going to finish out the day with phone calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, let me throw in a little bit of sports here while I'm at it.
All right.
The lunch menu, Dave. Griffith had a good run, but they unfortunately run into a buzzsaw last week. That is Miles McLaughlin of Knox and their former head coach, Russ Radke. So hopefully that makes your producer happy.
He is happy. He's happy that we got a minute or two of sports talk in there. So he's happy.
So, and as far as the government shutdown, I think not only should Congress not be paid during the government shutdown, they should be forced to divest some of their money in the stock accounts and whatnot to kind of pay the people who are actually trying to keep things going.
And by the way, we need a law that makes very clear, if you're a member of Congress, no insider trading whatsoever. No insider trading. To me, the idea that you serve the people, it's supposed to be a privilege, and you're only there to line your own pockets, that's wrong as well. We need a law that says that they cannot participate in any sort of direct trading. They can have blind trusts. They can put the money into a mutual fund, whatever, and it can be blind from them. But they should not know information and be able to capitalize on that information and become so wealthy. That's wrong too.
Conflict of interest.
Absolutely. If you did it or I did it, we'd be in jail, and they get away with it day in and day out. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for calling.
And for what it's worth, I kind of, it's like, I'll admit even that whole deal with January 6th is back in 2021 still a mess in my head. Which is why I'm not particularly keen on Trump these days either, You
know what? January 6th was a mess. A lot of this stuff is a mess. And what it really comes down to is that we're just being fed. We're just being fed a line by both sides where basically it's just bad entertainment. Government and politics has become bad entertainment. we can find
Yeah.
other things to entertain ourselves with than the baloney that goes on with
The
government on
black
all
entertainment
sides.
television, it's bad entertainment
It sure is.
television.
It's like bad reality television. Hey, thanks for the call.
All right.
845-1100. You've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, real quick, Mulligan. I know there's not enough time for Bill from Lola call back in, but I'd love to hear him tell me. I admit everything is not perfect in the world of politics, but if the literal world has not changed in the last 9 months under Donald Trump for the better, what in God's name is he looking for other than miracles, or what's the deal? And my second point is, if the Democrats voted for the last 17 continuing resolutions, and yet now they put their foot down and say they won't do this one because they didn't like what got passed before, how is it you possibly lay any blame on the Republicans?
All
They
right.
provided you with 51 votes. All you need is 9 Democrats and not a single.
All right. Mad Mac, basically, his mulligan was brought to you by the committee to reelect Donald Trump. I mean, I'm sorry, Mad Mac. You're going to, no matter what, everything comes down to Donald Trump is great, and we have problems in this country right now. And Donald Trump has done some good things, but he's done some bad things too. Don't sit there and pontificate and claim that everything is great under Donald Trump, because it's not. I mean, that's the bottom line. We have some problems, and we need to address them. So it's time for us to start looking at things from a problem-based approach and quit playing the party line. Go ahead. We have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Boy, it's a beautiful day out there in the region, right?
It looks nice. I haven't been out there myself, but it sure looks good.
Well, you're not in the old studio yet, so you could see out the window.
I can see out the window, and I will just say that's something that I need to talk to Jed about, because having worked in the old station, they've got to put some windows into that facility, because you can't sit there in the studio and not have a clue what's going on outside.
Oh, right. I mean, it might be a snowstorm out there, and you're going to say, boy, it's pretty nice out there, sunny and bright, and,
Well, I did that. I did that one time. I was actually on the air, and I said it was a nice day outside, and it was a friend of mine, Carolyn Krasinski, who called and said, "Tom, are you like in a bomb shelter? It's pouring rain, it's a thunderstorm, and it's horrible out." And I ended up being on the radio until 11:30 that morning because of all the power outages and all the people that were hit by the storm. So I had nothing. I had no idea, because I was inside a bomb shelter, basically.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, maybe we'll be able to get a couple windows in there. But hey, real quick,
yes.
Who do you like in tonight in that championship game? You like Andrian 59ers, or you like Rensselaer? I got to ask you that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to favor Andrian. I'm going to favor Andrian. Okay. I think that Rensselaer is 9-2, right? They look pretty good, but I'm going to go with Andrian.
And the reason I'm asking, I think it's safe to ask you about Andrian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe,
and I think that
I believe that
the sun is shining on 59 Broadway too.
Look, I believe that we should support every high school athlete, and the parents as well. And I'll just leave it at that. But I think Andrian, I'm going to go with Andrian tonight. I am.
Yeah, they've been pretty consistent every year too. So we'll see what happens.
Besides, I can't walk out here without passing Joe Cimino, and I don't know. He's in pretty good shape. He might clock me otherwise.
No, never you, Tom.
Well, he said never. So hey, you guys have a great day and a good weekend. Okay.
You as well. Thank you so much for calling.
Well, that actually leads me into something that I can talk about. We're covering 2 games as Jed TV today. We are doing the Andrian Rensselaer game as well as the Hobart Lowell game. So I personally will be at the Hobart Lowell game for the pregame show. The pregame show is coming back.
Predictions on Hobart Lowell?
I'll save that one for the broadcast. I'll tell you what my predictions are on Andrian and Rensselaer. I'll tell you, Rensselaer is scary. That's actually, I was telling you my Snapchat memories. We beat Rensselaer for our sectional championship as well. And we were lucky enough that they had to come to us. But I remember one of our coaches still on the coaching staff. Shout out to Coach Dietz.
Chris Dietz. I know Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, know him very well.
So he went out to Rensselaer and then came back, and they had like hate signs for us, and like rivalry things, nothing like terrible, but they had their hate signs. Like they were excited to come and try and put the beating on Andrean, and when you get to that kind of level of like prestigiousness within your program, then everyone wants to come and beat your butt. So I think it's going to be a hard-nosed game. Rensselaer's good this year. The wing tee has always kind of been, the wing tee or the triple option has always kind of been a problem for our defenses for, since I've been around, and, even a little bit before that. It's definitely a defense that Andrean struggles to defend. So it'll be interesting to see, especially as Andrean is the focal point, or Andrean's defense is the focal point of that team. So, I think
that's going to be a great game. I think Hobart Lowell is going to be a great game as well.
Hobart Lowell is going to be a good game.
And as you mentioned, you can watch them on Jed TV, okay? And folks, I know everybody's like, oh, come on, already, Dabertin. It's not that great. It is. It's phenomenal coverage. You are missing something if you're not watching Jed TV for these games. I mean, these games are covered just like the coverage that you're going to have tomorrow for college football.
A lot of our commentators are actual professionals, like we hire them to come and do these games, and as much as I love, like giving students a chance to do stuff like that, like if you guys want to come and watch a good production, we get it done at Jed TV. So if you guys want to go support the kids and their sectional championship and their dreams to go to Lucas Oil and win the state championship, then come watch it on Jed TV because we'll give you the best footage of it.
Absolutely. So tune in to Jed TV tonight. They're covering it on the radio as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so the radio as well. Tune in on the radio. But we are out of time. Coming up next is the award-winning Veterans Views radio show on WJOB. And again, keep in mind that next Tuesday is Veterans Day. Do your part in honoring a veteran. I've given you a couple of suggestions. You can tell them they get a free breakfast over at Cracker Barrel. They get 10% off at Strachan Van Til. The Lamar Advertising Initiative, where you can put their photo up on a billboard. A lot of good things, but let's remember and thank our veterans for what they've done, folks. And in the meantime, I'll be back here next Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. with the Morning Call with Tom Dabertin. It's always a pleasure and honor to sit in and be here on WJOB. Keep it tuned all day, all week, right here on WJOB.
Good to be back with you, Dabertin.
All right, good to be here with you as well, Joe. Have a great weekend, folks. Take care.